Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Board Member Cox is joining us telephonically this evening. And so with that, we're going to open with a moment of silent prayer and or reflection. Amen.
Amen.
Cheryl, would you call the roll, please?
Kathy Cox.
Here.
Alan Ward.
Here.
Pat Rooney.
Here.
Nicole Cohen. Here. John Maston.
Here. You'll stand with me for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We have a single call to the public by Brindley Mosley.
Microphone's way over here. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. If you'll just
Turn it around, talk to you right in the microphone.
there you go.
Can I back up? Wow, okay.
Sorry, we're ready to give out plaques.
Okay, my thing is,
State your name and your location.
I'm
Where do you live in a general manner, like city?
I live in Lake Havasu. My kids go to Starline Elementary.
Okay.
And I am speaking about the arts and music, physical education, and those things that have sort of been lacking, I feel like. First, I just want to thank you for your time, and I want to address just two positives. I want to thank the board for starting the Classical Magnet School. I've heard lots of support from my other fellow parents and friends, and they're really excited for that. And then I also want to just thank Lake Havasu and all the teachers for their wonderful teaching. My kids come home and they know that their teachers love them and adore them and just motivate their self-esteem. But with that being said, I want to talk about I see what's going on is hiring reading specialists and reading intervention programs and a Read Naturally program or capturing the hearts. I feel like the district has spent some money on this, and I think those things can be fulfilled through the arts. My daughter just sat through a reading intervention, and she was pulled out every single day and sat in front of the computer, read her story 30 times, had to reread it, and did crossword puzzles and did a little phonics. But I felt like, what if that 30 minutes was spent doing a play, doing music, doing even PE, learning the dance, that I think her reading scores would have improved just as much as sitting in front of the computer screen. And just some data that I want to support, it says, children who study music tend to have higher vocabularies and more advanced reading skills than their peers who do not participate in music lessons. Regardless of the socioeconomic status of the school district, students, third graders who participate in high-quality music programs score higher on reading and spelling tests. Schools that have music programs have an attendance rate of 93% compared to 84% in schools without music programs. And I know I've heard the district talk a lot about attendance and getting them there, and that was like the main goal. Well, one of the goals was the capturing hearts is how much their attendance improved. But I feel like, why aren't we bringing back the music? And when we hire maybe a full-time reading specialist, maybe that could have been a full-time music teacher at that school. Maybe it could have been a full-time PE teacher that gets rotated through. And I feel like there's a lot of creativity that can be done with how that's done and how it's worked around the budget. Also, I just want to talk about some other things. That it says, everyday listening skills are stronger in musically trained children than in those without music training. Significantly, listening skills are closely tied to the ability to perceive speech in a noisy background, pay attention, and keep sounds in memory. And that just reminds me of my kids, some kids that have ADD or ADHD that need to move, that reading intervention that they went and sat in front of the computer with the headphones listening to the story, that won't be as engaging as music or dance. And it says, music training in childhood fundamentally alters the nervous system such that the neural changes persist in adulthood after auditory training has ceased. Studies have shown that young children who take keyboard lessons have greater abstract reasoning abilities than their peers, and these abilities improve over time with sustained training in music. And so rather than focusing, my first grader, she got so many worksheets that her hand hurt. She came home and she said, "Mom, my hand hurt because I did so much writing." And I see the packets that my kids are brought home where they, and I'll talk just more elementary because that's where my kids are. I don't know really a lot about the middle school, but they'll have the section of the paragraph. And at first grade, she has to dissect it and tell what kind of question it is and answer the multiple choice and write. And I'm thinking, wow, our first graders could put on a play, put on a production. I haven't even seen them stand on stage. And so I'd just like to encourage the board to support principals in the arts and in that learning, even though you don't see a test score, you don't get a test sheet or a 93% or an 89%. And am I out of time? I don't know where my 5 minutes is up. I'm here. So, thank you. I just want to leave this with the board member to read about the music and arts. So, there's the timer.
All right. Brings us to item 3, which is recognition of visitors. Superintendent Sire, we have some retirees.
Yes, we do. We have some retirees, and so I'm going to ask if the board would come around in front of the board table so that our retirees can come up and shake hands and receive their plaque. And if you have an agenda, we'll be doing them in alphabetical order via the agenda. So I'm going to read something about each of the retirees and ask them to come up and receive their recognition. We'll ask the principal to come up as well. So if you're looking at the agenda, our first one is Carol Bodman from Hofstadter and Nautilus. All right, Carol, you get to stand up here while I read about you. Carol, and you don't have to pick up your own plaque. So you can stand up here next to, thank you, next to Mr. Berger, between them. Sure. A rose between 2 thorns, right? Carol has been with our district for 21 years. She started here in 1997, and she has been the elementary school nurse for Nautilus and Hofstadter for those 21 years. We asked our retirees to write something about what they were going to do in retirement. And so this is what Carol had to say, and I have to tell you that this made me laugh. I hope you all enjoy it as well. When I first retire, we are going to take a trip to Colorado to see some friends and do a little sightseeing. This will be the second time we have seen Carol and Frank in the last 35 years. Upon our return, my husband Corey is going to have a hip replacement. When he recovers, we are going to take a trip to Mount Rushmore with some friends. Upon our return, Corey will have a knee replacement. By then, I will have a new man by my side, and we will have some nice plans and enjoy our new adventure.
Well, all I want to say is Carol has been a wonder to work with, and what I'll tell you, between the two of us and the other schools, to have to work at 2 different schools and manage up all of the kids going back and forth when we have an emergency and always being there for our kids, and us having to chase people out of her office because they love her so much that there's crowds, it has been an honor to have you working at our schools with us.
And then on top of that, when a little first grader came up to me and hugged me by the leg and said, "Mr. Berger, that shampoo really burns," I went right to her office and said, "Do I have a problem with any kind of lies or anything?" She goes, "No, don't worry about it." So she's an expert in that area as well. And so it was really refreshing as a first-year principal to have someone like Carol with us.
Congratulations. Our next retiree is Betsy Duda. Betsy is from Havasupai. She has been in our district for 25 years. She started with us in 1993. She has worked at Havasupai her entire career. She's been a parapro, an office assistant, and most recently, for the last 10 years, the administrative assistant. Is that right? I can't add. Anyway, she has been in the office working with Mr. Sanders, and I'm not sure who before that. It's been longer than that. No, always him? Oh, I'm sorry. No.
In the office, Betsy's been with me.
All right. So what Betsy had to say is, as of right now, I haven't had time to think about what I'll be doing when I retire. I mean, of course, we're ready for the last month of school, right? It's the end of school year and one of the busiest times of the year. Of course, I will have more time for family and friends, and best of all, I will relax and enjoy life. So that's what Betsy's plans are.
Congratulations.
When I first started at Havasupai, I didn't know how this was going to go, and Betsy was the one that basically made it so that it would work as principal, and she has been there since the day I got there. She holds the school together. I'd like to say that I run it, but my teachers will tell you I don't. Okay? She does, and this is going to be a big hit. Because this is my best friend. Okay.
Our next retiree is Lynne Edwards, and I did not see Lynne here this evening.
She's not feeling well.
No, she's not. I would like to honor and recognize Lynne, though, and I don't know, Mrs. Heller, if you'd like to come and pick up her plaque on her behalf today. Lynne Edwards is the admin assistant at Jamaica Elementary School. Lynne has been with the district for 16 years. She started in 2002. She worked at Jamaica as a sped parapro and then as the administrative assistant, and has trained several principals, I understand, at Jamaica.
Yes.
So what I want to share about Lynne, and some of you who know Lynne know that she hasn't been doing very well. Lynne is planning for retirement to spend more time with her granddaughter, who just turned 1, and is looking forward to her grandson, who will actually be born in July. Being grandma and not having to get up early every day will be just heavenly.
And for those of you who know Lynne, she's close with a lot of different people in the district, and she definitely has been integral in helping Jamaica become what it is today, and I'm so thankful. She was part of my interview committee. She was there for me 100% when I started. Now it's been 2 years, and I know that the Jamaica staff consider her family, and so it means everything to us that she knows how much she's loved and supported. So we're thankful for her.
So I'm going to ask next Ann Gogger and Bill Gogger to come up together, if I may. And I'm sorry, Kathy, I'm standing in front of you. Ann has actually been in our district for 20 years. She's currently working at Lake Havasu High School. And Ann was an elementary art teacher when she started back in 1998. She actually was a bus monitor and transportation for a few years, and then a parapro at the Round Table. And finally, in 2015, she went over to the attendance office and is currently an office assistant at Lake Havasu High School. What Ann has to say is, as Bill and I retire, we hope to enjoy spending a lot more time with family and friends, growing a garden, working on sustainability, painting and enjoying the arts, traveling and working on improving our health. Now, Bill has been with the district for 7 years. He works in transportation. He joined us in 2011. And he has been a bus driver for that entire time, which earns you way more than a plaque. And I have to tell you, here's what Bill's going to do. Bill's going to be traveling. He's going to be working on sustainability. He's going to be enjoying the arts and traveling. He's going to be working on his improving his health, and he's going to do whatever it is that Ann tells him to do.
I heard that.
It's now in writing.
I've known Ann for quite a while. She has been my daughter's teacher, who's standing in the back, when she was at Oro Grande. And then Ann somehow followed my family and came to the Roundtable program when it was in existence, and I was named the administrator there. She worked in the office there. And then when we made the decision to close Roundtable and put it at the high school and house it within our own walls there, we had an opening in the nurse's office, and I gladly accepted Ann, and she has done a great job for us and has been an ear for our students who oftentimes do not have an ear at the high school, and they touch base with Ann, and she is that motherly figure for them in the nurse's office, so we appreciate you.
How's he going to get rid of me, Scott?
I'll drive you away.
Congratulations. Our next honoree is Gerald Hofstadter. Is Gerald here? Gerald. Gerald is from Thunderbolt Middle School, and he has been with our district for 11 years. He started with us in 2004, and he has been a custodian at Thunderbolt that entire time. And I apologize, Ms. Mulligan is at a banquet tonight for Syracuse, so she would have plenty to say. So what George had to say is, I have no firm plans, but I am sure my wife will figure it out. I plan to relax and enjoy it. So what I'm thinking is that Gerald took a lesson from Bill, and he's going to do whatever his wife tells him to do. Congratulations. Our next retiree is Jennifer Johnson. Jennifer is currently at Lake Havasu High School, and Jennifer has been in our district for 27 years. She came to us in 1991, and she actually taught at the Lake Havasu Junior High School. Then she went over to Thunderbolt and taught English at Thunderbolt. And in 2009, she came over to the high school, and she's been teaching English language arts since then at Lake Havasu High School. So, being an English teacher, Jennifer wrote a little bit more than some of our other folks wrote. So I did take out a little bit of it, but I'm going to share most of it.
I don't like when people edit my work.
There were a couple that I had to edit. Those of you who know me well understand that I'm an avid list maker. And in preparation for retirement, I've already created several. One is titled Activities and includes things like hiking, hitting balls at the driving range, and reading. Another one lists books I've wanted to read but have never found time to tackle. A third includes the synopses of books I've considered writing. And a fourth is titled Jobs. It's a compilation of online employment suggestions for retired teachers. In other words, I have no idea what I'll do next, but I'm excited to breathe a little more easily, drive a bit less frantically, and sleep a little later after my house has undergone a thorough cleaning. I didn't edit much at all. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So here's where words do not need to take place, because as you can hear, there's a large fan base right back here. I'm happy to announce to our sophomores that you will have longer than a week for your resume.
There probably will not be.
We will carry on the tradition of the visual resume. She was made fun of quite a few times the other night at the top 20 dinner. I really don't want to speak about Jennifer because I'm afraid grammatically I'm going to mess up. Hear about it. She deserves all the praise. She's a great teacher, and like I said, when you have kids clapping for you, that tells you what kind of teacher you have.
Thank you.
Our next retiree is Marie Keefe. Marie here? No? Marie is one of our bus monitors in transportation, and she has been with us for 10 years. Next is Sherry Corton. Sherry is from Smoke Tree, and Sherry has been with us for 19 years. She started in 1999. And so she has been, during her career at Smoke Tree, she has taught 4th, 5th, and 6th grades. And Sherry actually wrote more than Jennifer. So that's okay. So I'm going to read what Sherry had to say. I did edit yours as well a little bit. 19 years ago, as we were moving to Lake Havasu, my husband and I drove past Smoke Tree School. 2 months later, I ended up signing my teaching contract at Smoke Tree School. It has been a great 19 years. I would like to thank the district for making my teaching career so enjoyable. However, I am looking forward to waking up in the morning without an alarm and drinking coffee poolside while wearing a sock bunkie onesie. The second week of school, as all of my Smoke Tree friends are waking up to those alarm clocks, I will be celebrating our 25th anniversary on a cruise ship with the family and friends in the Western Caribbean. I am also looking forward to waking up to the sound of waves on the beach at our condo in Maui. Being a certified, you don't have anything to do. No. Being a certified USTA baton twirling coach since the age of 16, I plan to continue to coach baton after school and in the evenings. I currently have over 80 girls and boys through our school district. As I look at my retirement date, I have decided that I am only retiring my paycheck, staff meetings, trainings, and deadlines. I will be returning to Smoke Tree as a volunteer and possibly a substitute. I have already agreed to return to help train our students for Math Olympics. My goal is to retrieve that first place title for our school. I have also promised to return to teach the after-school patriotic club at Smoke Tree next year. I will be volunteering my time as seen needed at school, including PTSO. I may be retired, but Connie Hogard and our district will still be seeing my smiling face most days of the week.
So it's not really goodbye, it's just we'll see you again in the fall. And no matter how you add it up, because she's taught math for so long, we really appreciate all your dedication to our students. And it all equals have a career. You deserve it. So thank you.
Next is Mary Niskanen from Lake Havasu High School. I saw Mary here. Mary has been with the district for 17 years. She started with us in 2001, and she is a fashion design, nutrition, and wellness teacher at Lake Havasu High School. What Mary has to say, my retirement plans start with doing my very best to live a stress-free life. If you figure that out, I really want to know. I plan to travel and experience the people, food, and cultures of many different countries. I will be retreating in the summer months to my cabin and lake property in northern Minnesota, where I am free from cell phones and the internet. I will be reading books for enjoyment rather than having only limited time to be able to read textbooks or professional journals. My plans also include spending a lot more time with family, friends, and rekindling friendships with old colleagues and friends that have been such an important part of my life. And finally, I plan on just enjoying every day as it comes. Congratulations.
Mary's done a great job for us at Lake Havasu High School. When we had a teacher retire, we were kind of in threat of losing our fashion part of our CTE pathway, and Mary stepped up to the plate and took that over and continued the tradition of carrying on the fashion show, which is a very popular event that takes place each year. What I do know about her is she's a very giving individual. She has done that both at our school and in her personal life, and you deserve the best.
Our next retiree is Rafael Martinez from Thunderbolt. Rafael has been with the district for 15 years. He started with us in 2003, and for his career, he has been a custodian at Thunderbolt. So So again, a man of few words. I think he took lessons from Gerald and Bill. And he has that what he's planning on doing during retirement is fixing my house, traveling, and relaxing. Those all sound like the perfect things to do. Now, do you have a wife who's going to tell you what to do? It's a good thing. Very good. Congratulations. Our next retiree is Bonnie Morey from Fccla. Bonnie has been with the district for 20 years. She started with us in 1998, and she has spent her entire career as a parapro at Fccla. What Bonnie has to say: I have many plans for retirement, and hopefully some will even become a reality. I have family on the East Coast and would like to visit with them. While there, I would like to hike a small part of the Appalachian Trail. I would like to visit European countries such as Scotland, Norway, Sweden, and England. I would like to paint my own wall art in my house. These are things I have planned, but in reality, I will probably finish reading my book on the life-changing magic of tidying up, the Japanese art of decluttering and organizing, and head for the garage. I've read that book.
Bonnie's been with us for a long time too, and what I'll tell you is this is another big hit. We don't have this happen too many times, but I've had 3 classified that have retired this year with over 80 years experience between the 3 of them. So it's going to be a huge change for us. And Mrs. Morey is my other buddy who, when I'm really stressed and end up at the Elks Club on Saturday night, she's the one that I'm usually sitting with. Yep. It's kind of one of those stress releases, so Bonnie, congratulations.
Our next retiree is Denise Miner. Denise currently works at the district.
Can we interrupt and then all of the administrators come up?
Good job.
You can stand right in front of me, it's okay.
There you go.
Denise has been with the district since 1991, again 27 years. She actually started out as a teacher at Oro Grande, where she taught first grade. She taught a second and third split. So from first, second, and third grade teaching, Denise went to be the assistant principal at Lake Havasu High School. Quite a jump. Denise was the assistant principal at Lake Havasu from 2005-06 through 2009-10. In 2010-11, she became the principal of Lake Havasu High School and did that job for 5 years. 5 years.
I did.
Scott can attest to what 5 years, and she has all her hair. Look at it. Denise, in 2014-15, became the Director of Personnel and Technology, and she has worked in that position here at the district office since then. What Denise plans to do, Denise and her husband Mark will actually be moving near the Woodlands, Texas during this summer in order to be closer to their children, Elise and Hayes. Their daughter will be married in November, and Denise will be front and center when grandchildren start arriving, and she's hoping that grandchildren start arriving. Denise plans to continue to work in some capacity in the field of education. She and Mark will continue to boat, but on Lake Conroe rather than on Lake Havasu. They will always cheer on the Arizona Cardinals and the ASU Sun Devils. However, we're pretty sure that in Texas, she's going to need to keep her Nebraska Cornhusker memorabilia tucked in the closet. And you might get mugged for that.
All right.
Yes, he does. I've only had the pleasure of working with Denise for the last 2 years. And I have to tell you that probably the reason I didn't leave after the first month was that's not really true. I love it. But Denise has been so helpful and so insightful. She knows all of you. She knows every single name of every person who works in the district. She recognizes you. She can talk about you. And she knows the history. And through all of that, whenever I ask her a question, she always has something good to say about everybody. She can talk about the good things that they've done, the good places that they've worked, how they've helped in one way or another. And you have no idea coming into a district what magic that is. And I think it's Thank you very much. Our final retiree is Rita Van Horn. Is Rita here tonight? Marie Timmons? Did I miss Marie? I'm sorry. I probably turned 2 papers. My apologies. Marie Timmons.
Thought I was going to have to stay. You've been trying that, Jane.
Thank you.
We can arrange that and make you stay.
All right, our final retiree is Marie Timmons. Marie has been with the district for 10 years, and she started with us in 2008, January. She was a special education resource teacher at Daytona Middle School. Then she moved over to Thunderbolt Middle School, and she joined the Lake Havasu High School special education staff in 2013-14. What Marie has to say: we just purchased a home in Havasu Heights with over 2 acres of land with room to build. My plans for retirement include gardening in an 800 square foot raised bed garden and helping to plan and build a large garage for workshop, boat, desert toys, and motorhome. We plan on traveling to see family and grandchildren who are spread across Southern California and out to Wisconsin. Our other travel plans include a cruise to Alaska and tour in Europe, then wherever it may take us next, including volunteering with our church for Christian outreach. I plan on continuing to help support the Shining Stars Club, as that is my love for working with my students. I will work some part-time with the schools as a homebound teacher, so it won't be too far from the fun here. I've had the opportunity to teach at the high school what I love doing, the Student Transition Program, and appreciate all of the opportunities to learn and grow. And you've done a magnificent job.
Marie has taken our special education population and she takes them out into the community and teaches them the life skills that they're going to need. She takes them on shopping. It's not a shopping spree, but we'll give them a set budget, and they have to be able to go through stores and be able to guide themselves through stores. They have taken over the gardening club on our campus and started that, which we will continue in your absence, and has done a great job. I appreciate the fact that she brings her students into the main office, and one of the first things she does every year is she takes her students in to meet the principal, to meet the assistant principals, and make sure that they know everybody on campus and that they know they have somebody on campus that they can go to, and they make visits quite often, and we're going to miss that. You've been great for our children. Thank you.
Would all of our retirees please stand up? Well, all of you at once. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Oh, really?
That's a culture shock.
Diane, what were the combined years of all those teachers?
You know, I didn't add them all up, but I'm sure it was thousands of years.
I just wanted to mention that Denise's memory will live on forever in this room because her father built all this furniture, all these tables. So, and I just want you to know that after I was president last year, I came in and spent a whole day polishing this furniture.
Thank you.
It's very nice. He was very talented. So we'll miss you, but we'll have you back.
Next, under recognition of visitors, we have the Lake Havasu High School 2018 MCC Math Olympics champions.
Well, Mr. President, members of the governing board, we have gone to the Math Olympics for 18 times, and we've come home 16 times with first place. We have, there were 8 schools, high schools from the tri-state area, from Needles, Telesis, Laughlin, Mojave Accelerated Learning Community, and some others I can't remember. But we sent 17 mathletes, and 12 of them medaled, which is absolutely phenomenal. Look around our classroom. These are the toughest people you got to beat. This person right here, that's our competition. Because I know once we go up there, because I believe this is a K-12 unified district achievement from kindergarten, second grade, third grade. You've helped to this trophy. Nowakowski, you've helped. Musselman, you've helped. So many of you have helped get this trophy, and I just appreciate being up here today. I'd like to introduce my co-sponsor. His name's Andrew Strom. Not only do we compete on an individual level, we also compete as a team. Obviously, we didn't win. I'd like to introduce our members that are here today. Bobby Joe Bunker. Brendan Pritchard. Sean Conlon. Alicia Van Lith. All right, we have the Bartels. Haley Bartels. Our brother Trevor Bartels. They were asked to wear their purple shirt tonight, but they get honored again tonight, and they look very, very nice. So thank you. We have Chase Nobby. Aurelio Morales. Alexa Weiss. And the guy I'm probably most proud of, gold medal in calculus. The best of the best. Tyler Sterling. Winning gold in calculus is quite an achievement. So I just want to say thank you very much, and congratulations, guys.
Good job, Coach. Yes.
Okay. Lake Havasu High School Career and Technical Education National Contender Skills USA, Fbla, Fccla, HLSA, Educators Rising, and the National FSB.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. I'm going to continue the celebration here with some of our amazing Lake Havasu High School CTE students and advisors. The CTE, or CTSO, stands for Career and Technical Student Organization. This is a part of a comprehensive CTE program that allows our students to compete outside of our town. We get to go to regionals. The students that we're going to honor tonight medaled at state. They'll be traveling to nationals, so they get to compete on a national level. That's an education in itself, traveling. They learn workplace employability skills, so they learn how to speak in front of adults. They learn how to dress. They learn how to conduct themselves. There's so many positive things that come out of our career technical student organizations. So they should be so proud tonight. They will be traveling the country this June, and I will call them up as a group and let you know where they're traveling to. So the first group is Skills USA Digital Communications. Crystal Norman is the advisor. Come on up.
She's on here.
Okay. Savannah Causey and Lauren Coletta, they will be traveling to Louisville and competing. So, do we want, I'll bring everybody up. Okay. Morgan Maget is our first ever national contender for cabinet making in Skills USA. She's not here tonight. Health Occupation Students of America is HOSA. Janice May is not able to make it tonight, but I know I saw a few of her students. Alicia Mendina, Tally Bergner, Sierra Beckadal, Faith Cleveland, and Brianna Stewart. Please come up. They will be traveling to Dallas this summer. Our Fccla Early Childhood, it's Family and Consumer Sciences Leaders of America. Ms. Kathy Bagby is their advisor, along with Marie Hendry. Their national contenders are Bailey Klott, Taryn Glockner, Phoebe Kyle, Hannah Walgren, Erin Roche. Let me just tell you just a little bit about Erin Roche. She is the state president. She competed against numerous other individuals at the state competition and was voted in by her peers and by other leaders to lead our state in Fccla, so we're super proud of that achievement for her. Stephen Bonker and Shayna Bakta were also going. They are traveling to Atlanta this summer. Fccla Fashion and Nutrition, Miss Mary Niskanen is going to nationals with her contender, Erin Wilcox. The National Thespian Society is not here tonight. They are at the Spring Place, so their apologies, but they would like to say thank you for, they have 7 people that are going. Jesse Richter, Christian Murray, Morgan Torres, Maura Cunning, Allison Chapin. Educators Rising with Miss Tanya Gray.
She's taking her test.
Okay. Oh. Lauren Harwood and Samantha Zilberman, are they here? They are our first national contenders, okay, for Ed Rising. They're traveling to Florida. Yes. And now our large group here, Fbla, which stands for Future Business Leaders of America. And their leader is Mrs. Laura Denny. We have Christopher Toy, Haley Bartell, Tatum Mitchell, River Kennedy, Ariella Morez, Tiffany Vreeland, Brendan Stiers, Trevor Bartell, Jacob Kluzak, Jonathan Moline, Wyatt McDonald, Nick Kuda, Jonathan Cornejo, Diego Castro, Jonathan Escobar, Jaylene Lopez, Angelina Hudson, and Nick Fonte. And they are headed to Baltimore, Maryland. So we are so proud of all of their achievements and all of the hard work that you guys have put in throughout the year. You make us proud to teach and to be at Lake Havasu High School. So one more round. Thank you.
And last but definitely not least, under recognition of visitors, is the Lake Havasu City Education Association. Go ahead. We'll rearrange. Go ahead.
What do you need me to do?
I forgot something. Go ahead.
Close.
No.
It's too late, she's sitting.
Right. All right, well, I skipped over the counselors because we have recognition of visitors. So if we have our representative from the Lake Havasu High School counselors for a presentation.
Oh, yeah.
President and Governing Board, thank you for allowing us just a few moments to talk about the things that we're doing in the counseling department this year. Do we have a... So we've done some great things this year, and I want to introduce my colleagues. We have Katie Stengel. She has students with last names A through D, and I'm Tracy Presley, and I have students with last names E through K. Deanna Ainsworth has L through RA, and Sarah Skemp has RE through Z. The last time we spoke with you, we talked about our recognized ASCA model program, and we did receive that distinction again. It is a 5-year distinction. The first time we were recognized, it was a 3-year recognition. And we are one of the few high schools in Arizona who is a recognized ASCA model program. And what that means is that we follow a comprehensive school counseling program that's for all students, not just for students in crisis. But we go in the classroom and we deliver counseling lessons, and we also do small groups and individual student planning. One of the other parts of the ASCA national model is that they look at the recommended school counselor to student ratio, and they recommend 250-to-1. And just on average, we have 450-to-1 at the high school. So we do some great things with the work that we have and the 4 counselors at the high school.
So we just wanted to share with you a few of the things that we do throughout the school year. We go into the classroom and we do classroom lessons so that we can reach all of our students. We do a lesson at the beginning of the year with our 9th graders to meet their counselor, let them know what we can offer them. We also work with them on their Education Career Action Plan, or the ECAP. And we get to know a little bit more about them, what their goals are, and work with them on how to meet those goals over the next 4 years. We work with students on study skills. We go into the classroom and provide instruction and handouts to help them learn what their learning styles are and how to study best with those learning styles. We do a transcript interpretation and GPA calculation lesson where we give them their transcript and teach them how to calculate their GPA and what that means for their future plans, whether that's college, career, military, anything like that. And then along with that, we do post-secondary planning. So we plan for, are they college bound? Are they career ready? Are they going into the military? What do they need to do to reach those goals? And that goes along with their 4-year high school plan. What classes do they need to take to meet their goals? And we work all of that into our classroom lessons. We do small groups based on what we see the need for. So those range year to year. We do individual student planning. So we're meeting students individually in our offices, whether that is in crisis or planning or just dealing with whatever those needs that they're coming in with. Responsive services. So that might be a crisis. That might be that a student needs to be met with for a step, or just dealing with something that comes up at the last minute. We also work on our nighttime committee, so we each have a grade level and are responsible for helping to plan the nighttime activities. We work with our staff to collaborate to figure out what
our school needs and our staff needs and our students need, and we work with all of our staff in our building. And we also work with our parents and other stakeholders. We have an advisory council that meets twice a year that we parents, administrators, community members, school board member, and students, so that we can create the best program that meets the needs of our community.
So part of the thing for the school counselors, we want professional development so that we can become more effective counselors. And so one of the things we do is we're part of the Arizona School Counselors Association, and they have a conference every February. And at that conference there are presentations from other counselors so we can learn best practices. And this year we had 3 presentations of all the counselors. One of them we divided by 3, or 2 of us did it based on the need of what we wanted to talk about for this year. I'm on the ASCA Board of Directors, and Tracy's on the General Board, and because we wanted to be involved with our profession. And then also the American School Counselors Association, we're all members of that. That's our national level, because again, we want to have the guidelines that we follow to be ethical and help our students most prepared for their post-secondary. And then this year I just happened, I don't know why I'm talking on this one. I happen to be nominated to be on the ASCA Board, so we'll see what happens in July.
And now we're open for any questions or comments you guys might have for us. No? All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mrs. Nowakowski, the floor is yours.
All right. President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Assire, directors, staff, parents, community members. I was really hoping to say, and Senator, but oh, there he is. I knew you were in the room, and so I went. Well, you were. I'm the wife. Yes, and we do appreciate you being here. So, to give you the LHCA update, first of all, this weekend we do have 2 members going to our delegates assembly this weekend, which is the first time we've had 2 members in a long time, and that has a lot to do with our membership. Our membership drives our how many delegates get to go. What we will be doing, one item that we are very excited about, is that on Saturday we will be at the Salute to Excellence Luncheon. The AEA Presidential Award for Excellence in Education News Coverage is going to be going to Jillian Danielson of Rivers Magazine. So we're celebrate with her on that. This summer, we do have the Summer Leadership Institute that hopefully a few of us will be attending. It is Teacher Appreciation Day, and we are in hopes to be celebrating next Tuesday for all staff to have an end of the year, but we'll let you know place and time, because I know it's end of the year and we have a lot of things going on. So, now to the Governor's K-12 budget. As many of you have heard, that was passed last week. We have $100 million to the district additional assistance. After doing a little research, it looks like as if that is almost double of what was appropriated last year. Unfortunately, we are still $270 million short of fully funding, but there is a 5-year plan, which means we as a community, with Senator Borelli and our representatives, we need to be working together to make sure that 5-year plan is carried out. To give you an idea of what DAA, or the district assistance is, it is used for items outside of M&O, maintenance and operations. It's what we know as capital funding. It's our only source of capital funding. It helps with textbooks, curriculum, technology, and school buses. A little history on DAA. In 2014, we actually had 2 pots One was for soft capital, and then the other one was for the capital outlay. But in 2014, those were combined, so now we only have one pot, which is supposed to be 371 plus million, if I have my numbers correct. Is that right? Okay. Just checking his numbers. We're good. All right. So, what does that mean for LHUSD? For this fiscal year's budget, what was appropriated to LHUSD was $2.5 million. Unfortunately, there was $2.1 million reduced. So, after speaking with Mr. Murray earlier, we will receive, or we have received, or we are receiving for this school year, $320,000 for capital. So hopefully that means next year we'll maybe double that with the new budget. Also signed was the amount to the base level for fiscal year 2019. It has moved from $3,683.27 to $3,960.07. This is our maintenance and operation, aka M&O. An increase of $276.80 per pupil spending. Currently, we have 5,400 students. So you multiply, you do the math, or you do the math, and that's 1.5 million addition to our school district. So we are excited about that, right? So we will continue to work with our legislators. We will continue to work on funding for education. And we are crossing our fingers that if my calculations are correct, this will hopefully bring in a little over 2 million for us for the next school year.
Moving to item 4, the consent agenda. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Make a motion we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Jerry, if you'll call it.
Pat Rooney,
Yes.
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes.
John Maston.
Yes. Brings us to item 5, old business. 5.1 is discussion of possible action on governing board member vacancies. Been decided.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. It is recommended that the governing board discuss the governing board member vacancy that has been created by the resignation of Mr. Ward on April 10th and possibly take action to appoint an interim board member. We have reviewed all of the rules for doing so, and the board did ask that this be postponed to the next regular meeting. So it's the opportunity for you to discuss and make any decisions that you would like to make.
I make a motion that we postpone this action until we actually have an empty seat.
As I've said, I'll be here throughout May, and probably, if my house doesn't sell, into June. But the board will have to understand that with my situation, if it becomes necessary, the seat will be vacant.
I made a motion. So.
Made a motion, so is there a second?
Looking for a second. Is there one?
I seconded.
Any discussion? Terry, if you'll call the roll.
Ellen Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes.
Pat Rooney,
Yes.
John Maston.
Yes. Item 6.1, renewal of Tahoe food service contract for the 18-19 school year. Mr. Murray?
Mr. President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve the renewal of the contract with Tahoe Food Service for the fiscal year 2018-2019. In 2014, the district approved a 5-year contract with Tahoe with 4 annual renewals. This contract can be mutually canceled or renewed by the parties.
If this action item is approved, it would be the 4th renewal of the contract. The renewal document has been submitted to the Arizona Department of Education and has been approved, and a copy will be had been emailed to the board prior to the meeting, and we also have a TAHR representative here should you have any questions.
I'll entertain a motion on 6.1.
I make a motion we approve 6.1 as presented.
Second.
Discussion?
Is the TAHR representative here?
He is. This is Scott.
Board President, board members, administration, I'm Scott Pappy. I'm the district manager for TAHR. I've been involved with our program here for several years. I'm based in Minnesota. I love coming down here, especially when 3 weeks ago we had 20 inches of snow. When it's 110 out there like it is today, I'm like, wow, this is heaven. Just a few words about this year. We had a very, very tough year with the passing of Pat Gray, who was the matriarch of our program for many, many, many years. We sorely miss her. We constantly are looking backwards, but still trying to push forward because that's what she would want. I asked her in the fall, back basically in November, that, you know, Pat, I'm getting close to retirement. You're definitely close to retirement. Why don't you sit and enjoy life? Because food service work is very, very difficult and hard. We all work very hard. Mike and Ann with the district, we get so much cooperation on that, but we sorely miss Pat. Truly, we're in the process of interviewing, getting through second rounds at this point. A lot of these directors we have to hire that have professional standards that meet the government requirements, and they have contracts with other school districts that they can't get out of at this point. So we hope to have a decision hopefully by the end of June. Questions from TAHR or our program?
I just had a question about, are we following the food program, the food pyramid, the federal government food pyramid for our standards?
We just came out of a review audit from Arizona Department of Education Food and Nutrition, where quite frankly they had to find stuff to write us up. And part of that was Buy American, where some of the fruits and vegetables were not within the United States because quite frankly you can't grow stuff like that, and our exemption list didn't include 1 or 2 items. That was their finding. There wasn't any fiscal action, there wasn't any problems with our nutrition and our analysis and our following of those very specific guidelines that are literally within a size of a window that you have to hit every week. So, obviously we can do better with some of the community input. We have a survey that was currently, I pulled it because we got 30 responses. And I'm like, well, maybe that's good news, but we also need to get more responses. I had a discussion with one of the assistant principals at the high school today, where she was actually one of the 30 that had some, because she has kids in the school district here, that had some good ideas that we're definitely looking at. And again, with Pat's absence, we're kind of struggling a little bit with trying to get some of these things implemented quick enough.
I just wonder if there's any conversations within your organization about how detrimental the food pyramid that we're following is, the sugars,
It is. I'm a dietitian myself. That's what I went to school for. But it really, back in the 60s when I went to school, it was nutritious. Why there is such a difference between 1960 and 2018? Again, federal regulations and mandates and really narrowing the window for some of these high school boys who are, quite frankly, almost 300 pounds and 6'10" or 6'5". I mean, 750 calories is ridiculous. And that's what we have to serve them. So we get a lot of flack for that, but we also encourage them to eat more fruits and vegetables, which is the whole initiative part of that. Things are changing in Washington, believe it or not, but it's a slow process, especially when you deal with Congress and all the bickering that goes on. Any kind of change that trickles down into USDA for National School Lunch Program takes a long time, but we are starting to see some of those changes. maybe we'll get back to the old ways. You know? Any other questions or comments about our food service program? Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board about anything having to do with 6.1? Kara, if you'll call it.
Kathy Cox?
Yes.
Nicole Cohen?
Yes.
Pat Rooney?
Yes.
Ellen Ward?
Yes.
John Maston?
Yes. Item 6.2 is approval to increase school meal prices. Mr. Murray.
Mr. President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve an increase of 5 cents to school lunch prices for the school year 2018-19. There will be no increase to the school breakfast price. The governing board is asked to approve an increase to school lunch prices to become effective for the 18-19 school year, as USDA requires that there is equity in school lunch pricing. It's a provision that requires school districts to charge students for paid meals at a price that is on average equal to the difference between the free meal reimbursement and the paid meal reimbursement. Schools that currently charge less for meal prices than the amount needed to create paid lunch equity are required to gradually increase prices over time until they meet the required or supplement their food service operating funds with non-federal funds to ensure equity. The prices for the breakfast and lunch, for breakfast and lunches are as follows at the bottom of the page. Elementary breakfasts still remaining at $1.25. Elementary lunch going up to $2.40. Middle and high school breakfast remaining at $1.25. And middle and high school lunch going up to $2.65.
I'll entertain a motion on 6.2.
I'll make a motion we approve 6.2 as presented.
Second.
Discussion on 6.2.
The part where it says USDA requires, I know this is loosely related, but it has to do with what I was asking Scott. So I just recently watched this documentary called The Magic Pill, and it was all about our food. And I know this is nothing that we can change tonight, but this seems like a critical, important topic that our community, our district should be talking about, especially with our food service, because we're experiencing health issues at an unprecedented rate in the last 100 years, and there's reasons for that. And it's almost as if the government is requiring us to purposely poison our kids based on what the research I've done in the last month. So it's a conversation I think that we should have in the future, but I know that's not for tonight. I want to put it out there though.
I have a question, Mike. It says here, raise it gradually, so I assume this 5 cents is part of that gradual increase. My question is, how far are we behind the power curve?
Well, this is a requirement, isn't it?
Yeah, it's required, and Ann could probably speak to that a little bit in greater detail if you want to go ahead and start.
Yes, it's required. We will never catch up to it because every year the USDA usually gives us a little bit more reimbursement money, so then we gotta raise our prices. There is a cap on it, no more than 10 cents. USDA came out with this paid equity lunch tool that they do every year late this year, so we were able to be exempt from it. When I ran the numbers through the tool, technically they wanted us to raise it 10 cents, but since we were exempt, we decided just to go 5 because 10 is, a shock. We do have a high free and reduced rate, so.
Question on that, if we go 5 cents, what's our situation going to be next year?
I'm sure it'll be another 5 cents. I'm sure every year going it'll be 5 cents unless something changes with Washington and how they fund.
Any further discussion on 6.2? Kara, if you'll call for the vote, please.
Nicole Cohen?
Yes.
Pat Rooney?
Yes.
Ellen Ward?
Yes.
Kathy Cox?
Yes.
John Maston?
Yes. Item 6.3 is approval of the Thunderbolt Middle School Student Handbook for the 18-19 school year. Mrs. Desai?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, I do want to request that the governing board approve the changes to the 2018-19 Thunderbolt Student Handbook. And the board was provided a copy electronically. However, they were also provided an information page that shows the actual changes to the handbook. One of the major changes that occurred was based upon the results of our discipline committee. We did add a statement at the beginning of the discipline section, which is page 30 of the handbook. We also included our board policy, which gives much more guidance on the flexibility of discipline. And then what our middle school did in terms of their revision is they provided a breakdown for certain items for first offense, etc., and then what was the maximum discipline that would be received in a consequence for an action. So that would be the most, that it could be anywhere from counseling to that would be the variation on the discipline depending on the offense.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on 6.3.
I'll make a motion to accept 6.3 as written.
Second.
Discussion?
So I wasn't at the work session, but I watched it, and there was a lot of discussion on this action item. So do we need to define what a hole is?
No, not this one.
Oh, this isn't the one? No, I thought it was. The next one?
Next one.
Is this policy or just we're going to do it in one handbook and we're not going to do it in another?
Let's get there.
Oh, well, we're in discussion, so I don't know what you mean. Let's get there. Wait till the next one, or? Okay. But we're going to approve this and it's not going to be corrected in that one if we make a change? Am I missing something?
Right now, there is a statement in the Thunderbolt handbook about having no holes in their clothing. I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what it states. I believe that when we talk about the high school handbook, that there could be a recommendation to modify that statement as well as add a statement to all other handbooks. So it would require us to
make it across the board. That's okay. That was my question. All right.
Any other discussion on 6.3?
Pat Rooney,
Yes.
Alan Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes. Item 6.4, approval of the high school student handbook for 2018-2019. Mr. Becker.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve the 2018-2019 high school student handbooks, both the Lake Havasu High School student handbook, and then there were no changes to the athletic handbook. And then as you read through it, we aligned everything to the discipline committee and included the things that Mrs. Heyer had mentioned. And one of the biggest changes you will see in our handbook is the minimum, the mid, and the maximum discipline for infractions as you look through the documentation that was given to you.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion on 6.4 that we approve it with the following change to page 37, that we identify that bottoms shall be fingertip length, appropriately hemmed, cover all undergarments, and be free from rips, frays, holes, and tears.
Second.
Any discussion on 6.4?
Yes, I have a question. What does Mr. Becker think of that?
What do I think of it? All right, here's I guess the first time that the board will hear me be very honest, and the public as well. Right now, I do not sit in a seat where I'm a voting member of the board. So this is, as I requested during the work session, if this is going to be a decision, it is a decision from the board and the district level so that we're uniform from kindergarten all the way through high school, and it is not a school-by-school issue.
I think that it puts the staff, the administrators in a tough situation to ask them to give their opinion because we're the ones that are supposed to be setting policy. And I know that kind of gets blurred because you've been both now, Kathy, but that's, I think, our job to set that so it, whether they like it or not, at least it lets them off the hook. They can just point to policy, period.
Oh, I'm fine with that. I just wanted to make sure that Mr. Becker had some input in it, and it wasn't going to cause any problems. If we go to a pant or a shorts or whatever, I think that needs some work, not just to be done tonight, which it's not going to be. But no, I just wanted to know that Mr. Becker was okay with that.
Again, in a public forum, I believe in the position that I hold. My opinion in a public forum is not the place or time for that.
Mr. President, what was your modification to this?
My modification is that bottom shall be fingertip length, appropriately hemmed, cover all undergarments, and be free from rips, frays, holes, and tears.
In other words, the same thing that any employer that we claim that we are preparing our kids to enter into an environment would expect.
Correct. I believe it should be a district-wide policy, yes. Then I would amend my motion to make this a district-wide policy.
I'll take back my second, so you can amend.
I will amend it to make this a district-wide policy. Is there a second?
Second.
I second it.
You are able to speak. I would ask that you come to the mic, identify yourself, and what city you live in.
Hi, I am Nicholas Kuda. I am a junior at Lake Havasu High School. I found out about the changes to the student handbook recently, or actually today, and I believe I share the same opinion as most of my peers at Lake Havasu High School that the changes to the dress code seem a little bit excessive, mostly regarding the rips, holes, and tears in the jeans. How do I phrase this? Sorry. Most students at Lake Havasu High School do wear these clothings, sometimes out of necessity, sometimes for fashion, and what I propose is we keep all the other things that you suggested, but remove the rips, holes, and tears from the new changes. I don't really know how this works this first time.
Future businessman.
You know, I brought this up the last time. I don't, you know, the board doesn't always have to see an issue and generate a reform from the top down. It seems to me that as far as institutions, that they should see issues there and should make recommendations so that it can start any place. But what I'm saying is there's standards. You know, when I was at the high school, I heard this over and over regarding profanity, and I think there's something still in the handbook that deals with profanity. And the excuse was, well, that's the way they talk. They didn't talk that way around me, and they didn't talk that way around other people. And there's a famous saying you hear sometimes, the first impression is the best impression. But there's another saying that goes along with that, and that is, the first impression is the last impression. In other words, the way you dress, the way you look, the way you act, that can pigeonhole you someplace else. Now, if we're supposed to be providing guidance, not just academically, which we should be doing, we should be having a rigorous academic program that when kids step out of school, they have an opportunity to compete. I mean, a hope of competing. If we were to do that and say, well, it's anything, we'd be shortchanging kids, wouldn't we? What I'm saying is, here is that when you walk out of school, everything that you learn in school should be something that assists you later. And an example of that would be, and I know kids sometimes question this, why do I have to go to school? Why do I have to be at school? And why do I have to be there on time? And if they don't learn those lessons because the institution demands it, when they finally get out of school and they don't go to work and they're not there on time, the employer says you're not going to be here. So it's a training ground, isn't it? And fashion's the same way. But we had the issue on the length of the shorts. Now, you know what? From what I understand, it was fashionable to have short shorts and the cheeks actually were exposed. Now, when does someone step in and say, that's not acceptable? You know, and that is the nature of growing up. The role of adults is to say, look, this isn't acceptable. And I was up there when, this is not a new idea. When I was there, and I think it was the 80s, this came in. And you had these ripped jeans, and we didn't allow it. We said, no, that isn't. No different than the kid who comes to school, usually it was boys, and wanted to wear jeans that were halfway down their buttocks. And we have a responsibility as adults, as administrators, as teachers, to say, that's not acceptable. Well, I can't afford, and the excuse was, I cannot afford a belt. You know what? Once they were told that's not acceptable, they cinched up their jeans and they got a belt or whatever. So it was. And if they couldn't get a belt, I said I'd get them a belt from St. Vincent de Paul or someplace. But my issue is, even when I went through school, the role of adults and the role of the institutions was to prepare you for the day that you eventually walked out of there. And so that you could have the best opportunity to take advantage of your education and all the other opportunities. So, and you know, I learned that when you would go in and do an interview, one, you showed up on time. You showed up appropriately dressed. And you know, in a number of places, if you don't show up on time, if you don't show up appropriately dressed, that's it. No, it's a bad way to learn things when you're finally in that situation.
I'll tell you an example. He's talking about these boys with their pants. When I taught high school, I used to keep lengths of rope in my desk. When they found out that I'd make them wear the rope for a belt, they all magically found belts. I don't know how that, it just, they all got their pants pulled up. My daughter, when I was in Wisconsin, this is when they first came out with the, at first it was just the knees, right? The knees had frays in them. And I told my daughter, I said, you can't wear those to high school. I said, I'll buy you good slacks, but you can't wear those. One day I caught her getting off the bus with a pair of those pants on. I walked over, I took every pair of Levi's she had and burned them. And I did that because I cared about her looking proper. And I think as a board member, I have an obligation to the students, just like I had an obligation to my kids. I have an obligation for them to learn the proper way to dress and the proper way to act.
Am I allowed to speak to that? Sure. Okay. I do see your guys' points in how high school is the learning experience for the real world. But as you can see from all of our CTSO members and other competitive club members, we do know how to dress professionally, we do know how to speak professionally. These resources are open to all students, and even in our nighttime classes, we hear how to go into a job interview, how to dress professionally. So we know how to do these things. We wear, or should I say, girls do wear ripped jeans and short shorts, mostly out of necessity for this Lake Havasu heat, because we do get up to over 100 degrees in the summer and fall. So the reason why ripped jeans have become so popular within the past year, at least at our school, is because the school board has enforced the short shorts length, making most people go to ripped jeans for a little bit more airflow instead of just wearing regular jeans. So I learned this from talking to multiple students today. So
I just want to mention that we all live in Lake Havasu, and we all live in this heat, and we all are in and out of,
Right.
So it's not really a good enough excuse, in my opinion. And it's important to learn there's different rules when you operate in different places. This is no different. Personal story, my divorced family, for instance. There was a set of rules at one parent's house and a set of rules at ours, and you just learn that you operate within them. It's no different. It's not trying to take away somebody's individuality or stop them from expressing themselves, but not everybody is participating in these student organizations. And this just needs to be across the board because it's a distraction. It's a distraction for other kids. It's a distraction for teachers. I had a distraction standing before me today, violating the dress code in short shorts in front of me. So clearly, there are kids that don't understand that there's a time and a place to be appropriately dressed. So if it's being reinforced every day for every single student, everybody's going to have to get it. If it's not enforced every day for every single student, then it's, well, why is she? Why is he? How come that? If it's just uniform across the board and it's appropriate, it's just being respectful. It's being respectful around the adults that you're interacting with. So that's my opinion. But it's hot for everybody.
Yeah. I mostly just came here today to voice the opinions of a majority, probably everyone at Lake Havasu High School. I mean every student.
You know what I find interesting?
Yes.
I mean, this is just students like yourself. If we come out with a rule that says no holes in your pants, you won't come to school with holes in your pants. You'll complain because the other students are going to have to take their holy pants off, but you will follow the rules. You are not the individual we're talking about.
I understand that, and
Can I help you out here?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
When I was laughing, I wasn't laughing at you, so
yeah,
I
I
hope you didn't
understand.
feel that way. I was sort of laughing at your argument, because I'm a native Arizona.
Right.
It was hot when I was growing up.
You don't get enough airflow?
And that's back when all guys wore Levi's, and no one wore Bermuda shorts unless they were on the tennis team. And I had 3 kids go to the high school, and they dressed a certain way. So don't get the idea that I don't respect your opinion, because I do. And I just don't agree with it.
Okay. I understand.
But I respect you.
I think you've done a great job.
So I grew up here, okay? I wore jeans and shorts and all sorts of things. My assistant principal sits right there, okay? I went to school, Mr. Bruni was the guy that you ran away from regularly because he'd come and get you for something at some point in time. I've done ripped jeans. I've had a part of my background where I ran nightclubs and bars. I've seen all manner of dress. I am no prude. I am no, gosh, don't wear that in front of me. I can pretty much deal with whatever you'd like to come up with for dress, okay?
I've been through spring break in Lake Havasu, running those bars and nightclubs. I've thrown very famous people out of a bar running that. I've pretty much seen it all, okay? I'm very much in favor of this because I think that when you talk about an educational institution, which is what we're talking about, and when we talk about students, we don't use the word professional students because the students that go to school are going there to learn, and that is, and people are going to kind of groan at this, but that is their job. There is money that is spent and invested by the taxpayers of Lake Havasu, whether that money is sent to the federal government, comes back, is sent to the state, comes back, or is directly generated from property tax revenue within the city. That pays for that education. So there are people that are paying the freight, and that's the community out here as a whole. Now, my Facebook got lit up the past 2 days, and you probably know that, you've probably seen that, with everybody who's got an opinion.
Right.
There were opinions that said, let us wear whatever we want. And those mostly came from students or some parents who really don't want to fight the battle with their child. There were other opinions that said, let's put a uniform on it.
I saw those.
Okay? And those actually were almost equal to the other ones. And there were other ones where people said nothing and they just gave it a thumbs up, which meant, yep, we're good with that. If the community is going to pay for you to go to school, the community has every right to expect a certain level of dress. And I see a teacher back there shaking her head no, and I understand that. I understand that you disagree.
It's free public school.
I'm sorry, I've got the floor. Thank you. Public schools aren't free. Somebody pays the freight. Okay? And so as long as somebody is paying the freight, whether it's an employer, whether it's a client of mine, a certain level of professional dress is required. I have to wear long pants, laced up shoes, and a polo shirt when I go out in the heat to go to someone's house to work on their computer. Or if I'm outside changing the camera out on the eve, and it doesn't matter if it's cool out or 120 degrees out, it's the job and it's what you got to do. So I understand the heat. But I'm not here trying to be a prude. What the idea is behind this is that we want a certain level of a more professional dress. And honestly, I've seen this in my own operation. I used to want to be real casual with jeans and t-shirts, and I didn't want to be the boss that enforced the, let's wear a nice pair of pants and a nice shirt. The minute we went to that, we could bill a little more. My employees became a little bit more professional. My customers became a little bit happier, and it worked very well. So I think that there's a benefit to this in the long run.
I guess just my last thing is I feel like there will be quite a lot of resistance from the students at Lake Havasu High School due to this new rule. I just hope you're aware of it.
I would liken this to cell phones. At the middle school, we said a couple of years ago that the cell phones go in the cubby. And the 7th graders who had never been there before went, oh, okay. And the 8th graders went, not on your life. Well, after a couple of years of that, what do you think the resistance level is?
Probably 0.
And now if the resistance level is 0, what do you think the enforcement issue is?
Probably 0 as well.
It's not there anymore the way that it used to be. And so, will there be resistance initially? Sure. Over time, will this become back to the way it was when I was in school and you just made sure you didn't have ripped up jeans on going to school? Probably.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question.
Okay.
I wasn't here for this meeting. I happened to come in.
Can I get your name, please?
Deborah Langhoff.
Thank you.
And I heard this part of it, which I can keep quiet, but where do the children have their individuality? When you leave home, your parents' rules, and I'm not saying to run amok, but ripped jeans is the least of the problems that kids have nowadays. I believe that has nothing to do with their learning. My godson committed suicide, and I'm ashamed to say I didn't hear from not one of you board members, not one of you contacted their parents. It's It's a tragedy that happens. Kids have other things to worry about than holes in their jeans. There's a big problem with suicide and teenagers in this community alone.
We actually have something on that coming up.
Good, then maybe I am at the right place.
You are, because that's on tonight's agenda.
That is not, I mean, rip holes in their jeans. And my son is already 40 years old. And I've gone through the dress codes and changes and all that stuff. But I still see the young kids now, and it's a different world than I lived in, a different world than you lived in. Things have changed. Everywhere you go, people that you deal with that are out in the public aren't always dressed professionally. They don't look professionally. They have tattoos all over. Me, myself, I do. They have piercings. Times have changed. And it doesn't mean that that's not a respectable child that doesn't know how to dress appropriate when they need to dress. I'm just saying there's a big, big problem with suicide here, and children should have the right. That's the way they sell the jeans. They sell them that way. And now you're wanting an extra expense on a parent that doesn't have the money to buy both.
Actually, they may be less expensive from what I've seen. The jeans that I've seen that are altered.
Not
like
really,
that,
because you change yours. If you have them, all you have to do is add some rips in there, and you're in style like the other kids that can afford them.
I understand that, but I see a lot of those jeans on sale, and it's 70, 80. I've seen $168 pair of jeans.
I've seen it 10, 15, because that's what I can afford. It's not, doesn't make the child. It doesn't make you a good citizen. It doesn't make you a good person if you have a hole in your pants. They're there to be themselves and learn how to be adults away from their parents and learn how to be a productive citizen.
Do you believe that in the past 30 years that expectations of a child have changed?
Do I believe they've changed? I believe they've changed in the last 100 years. From when my mom was being raised and my aunts were being raised, it's changed a lot. A lot. I just believe that children should have somewhere to be able to have something to say about their life, not just running amok in the street. You should be able to express yourself at school as well, and that's my opinion. That's it.
I just have one last thing. I've heard many people over the last week talk about students' individuality. I tend to dress professionally. Tonight I'm a little laid back. But I tend to dress the way the public expects me to dress. Is there anybody in this room who would doubt my individuality? Do I have a singular personality? I don't have to wear a certain type of clothes to express my personality. And I keep hearing these kids should be able to express themselves. Yes, they should. They should develop the ability to express themselves, and they shouldn't rely on clothing to be their expression.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today at this meeting. I'm Autumn Porter, and I'm currently a sophomore at the high school. When we were told that we would no longer be allowed to wear shorts that were above fingertip length, we knew that the new shorts would be a challenge to find. When my siblings and I place our hands at our sides, our fingertips are only a few inches away from our knees. When we went school shopping over the summer, we tried on countless pairs of shorts and skirts, and my sisters and I were unable to find any shorts or skirts that fit the new dress code. Unable to find shorts and skirts, we've resorted to jeans and leggings. I only own ripped jeans, and the leggings that I wear are not see-through. If these are taken away from us, many students at the high school will only have the option of wearing regular jeans, and once it starts reaching over 90 degrees, it becomes extremely uncomfortable to wear these jeans inside and outside of school. I do agree that no body part should be hanging out of the clothing, but I do believe that this dress code is excessive. I'd also like to add that while wearing this pair of jeans during October, I was dress coded, and it was not in the school handbook, so I didn't understand why. And I missed an entire class period, which is my hardest class, history, and I felt like that was I didn't agree with that, and I feel that my education is more important than the clothing I have on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You understand that the high school's change that they originally proposed to this is pants may not have holes above the fingertip length.
Yes, I believe.
So you're okay with that?
No, I think that we should be allowed to have ripped jeans.
Okay. So the only change that we're making really to this is we're eliminating holes, rips, tears, and so on below the knee, or below that fingertip length, excuse me. Just so that we're clear on that. Because the jeans that you wear today wouldn't be compliant with the proposed change that the high school brought forward.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
I misunderstood you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think she's aware of that change because nobody would have seen it
Right.
except for us.
Right. I just told her that the high school had proposed a change, which started this thought process. And the high school's change said that pants may not have holes above fingertip length. That was their change to the handbook.
When did that happen?
And all we're saying is anything below the fingertip length. That's really literally our change from where the high school is back.
So I can't have jeans then? We wouldn't be able to wear jeans. Okay, so I'd only have regular jeans to wear then? No jeans in 120-degree weather?
You know, I've heard this argument about nobody being able to find clothes, and it's stunning to me because I see long shorts at Ross, I see them at Kmart, I see them at Walmart, I see them at Dillard's, they're all over Amazon, so I'm not understanding why everybody's having a difficult time.
I personally just wasn't able to find them.
I'm not sure why, but I've heard that repeatedly from a lot of people. You know, I'm tall, I have a high waist, you know, it's difficult. I think all that, for me personally, falls under, it's difficult. Sometimes things are difficult. And it shouldn't be so difficult that it prevents you from owning a pair of clothing that doesn't have holes in it. Shorts for the hot weather. What I think the problem is that girls want to wear short shorts. They don't want to wear long shorts. And so I think that's used as an excuse that they can't find long shorts. Because you can go on French Toast and order really cute long shorts as part of a uniform. They're very inexpensive too. I think they were like $12. So I understand wanting to dress cute and be stylish. I want to be cute and stylish just like, you know, most girls do. But there is always a time and a place for it, and everybody feels like they have this right. And I think we've really strayed from what a right actually is. Everybody wants to be trendy, but that's not a right. And expressing yourself, I agree with Grumpy. I would love for our kids to be able to express themselves in ways sometimes I can't articulate what you're trying to say instead of showing it. So, anyways, I just wanted to say I've heard kids can't find these shorts, and you know, I'm available to go shopping with because I see them everywhere, and I mean that truly, because they are everywhere. They are so in style, long shorts. So you almost have to look harder for short shorts in this town. I've been looking, so I just wanted to say that. I don't know if you'll have better luck going out now, but they are out there.
Anything else?
No. Thank you for
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have a question. I just want to clarify something as a mom. Okay, mom of elementary kids. Are you saying no holes below the fingertips and no rips and tears, or no holes whatsoever?
Period.
Okay, so this is my concern with my elementary kids, my 5-year-old boy. They get holes in the knee like that. They're running on the concrete, they're doing everything. So I've tried to hold sew patches a million times. It's really hard to get in that sewing machine, and I've given up by just giving the hole. So I'm just thinking, when you pass this on to the elementary kids, you are putting a big burden on the moms to try to get their kids to not have the holes in their knees. And also, just one other thing is the leggings. I love to just cut them off for my girls and make the long shorts, because I do have sometimes wearing long shorts, so I just cut them off and I don't hem them. And I leave them frayed too long. So that's my thing. If there was holes anywhere below that, I think I would be fine with them.
Well, and I can tell you that my 10-year-old son still rips his knees up badly. And I can also tell you that Walmart has a wonderful iron-on patch set.
No, it stinks, because I put it through the laundry and it comes right off. And I'm a seamstress, I got my sewing machine right there.
But the trick that we do is on those patches, you first buy the pants, put them on.
Oh,
Turn them inside out, put them inside, do them backwards, it helps a lot.
So, I'm just, yeah, that's the hardship as a mom out too, going through elementary, when they're swinging on the bars and doing all the multiple things to push it down. The shorts actually don't even get enforced with the little girls. Like we had the fun run, and I saw multiple girls because they're all those short athletic shorts. And so it's just hard seeing these gray standards of a lot of kids feel like, oh, I got picked on because the principal doesn't like me, and they're going to make sure they're run, where other PTA moms, their daughters don't get picked out. So.
Hi, my name is Corey Porter, and I'm not dressed appropriately to be here tonight, and I apologize to all of you for wearing my workout clothes, but I was not planning on coming until my daughter told me she was going to speak. And so I wanted to be here to support her, and I understand, my whole thing is, my girls, if I purchase them a pair of shorts, which I think my daughter's jeans are fine, but that's me, but their shorts must be 3 inches. Inseam is 3 inches. I want to bend over. You can't see your butt. Like the whole, I feel like, and anybody that knows me knows, I am a very modest for my children. I mean, finding homecoming dresses is a challenge for us, but I do it because that's what I want them to look like. I don't want boys looking at them, and so I'm very aware of what they present themselves and how they look. That said, it is very difficult to find shorts. You're talking about uniform bottoms. No girl, and I don't know how many high school students are here, no high school girl is going to wear uniform bottoms unless you require them to do that. It's not stylish, and I'm sorry, like, I don't really care that much about style, clearly, but these high school girls, they do. I mean, I did when I was in high school, but I don't care anymore. But I'm over caring. But so I really feel like if you're going to say no leggings, no jeans with rips, no shorts above the fingertip, why not just make uniform bottoms? And I know my girls are not happy that I'm saying this, but why not? I mean, you're leaving them jeans, and I can agree. You can find Bermuda shorts. You can find them. For my younger girls, I can find them, and it's just fine. But for my older girls, where it fits in the hips, in the butts, in the thighs, like, it is very difficult. So I don't know who you're shopping for or with, but you are welcome to take my girls, because it is not fun. So that is my concern. Like, if you're going to put all these rules and all these stipulations on what they can and can't wear, just make uniforms. That's all. Sorry, that's all.
Hi, I'm Rachel Bishop. I'm a high school English teacher. This is year 20 for me. So let's see. How do I want to? I'm here as a teacher. I'm also a mother of a 15-year-old daughter, and I did just buy some expensive jeans with holes in them because she refuses to wear shorts. Even though we tried and looked this summer, it was, no, anyways, okay, get the mom hat off. Anyways, teacher. I'm going to tell you that initially I was like a huge supporter of the whole fingertip shorts thing, because believe me, I have seen enough butt cheeks to forever, okay? And I was like, yes, and then guess what? I was told, now you get to enforce it, and guess what? It cuts out of my instructional time. It cuts out of my instructional time. Like Autumn said, she missed her most difficult class because she was dress coded. I will tell you, Autumn she's like Nick. We are, in a sense, preaching to the choir here. They will do whatever we tell them to do, okay? But it's a burden on the teachers and the staff and administration. It is a burden, okay? And it does take time from my teaching, from my rigorous teaching that you want me to be doing. And so I feel like we're starting to make some headway with the shorts. We definitely still have some that just want to push it, and they're going to always push it. But it is becoming less and less. But I feel like coming in with another strict regulation like this so close to where, like I said, we're still trying to battle the shorts. It's another hardship for our staff. And it's just going to be more time that they're going to be in the office, and we're going to have a full office for administration having to then call home, whatever, detentions. And so can we possibly, my suggestion is, can we possibly table this and maybe do some more research? How do other districts deal with it, other boards, and maybe come back and revisit it a year from now? That was all I have to say, so thank you very much.
I did a lot of research before we did the shorts, and our school district is way lax. I mean, by comparison to other districts. Leggings, I couldn't find a district that allowed leggings at all. They had collarbones, specific collarbones could not be showing on any of the shirts. So I don't feel like this is another thing. I forget the gentleman's name.
Nick.
Said that, I believe he was the one who said, when you went to the shorts, then they went to. So we're talking about, this isn't a burden, this is something that's like, oh, you're going to impose a rule on us? We'll one-up you and we'll change it up and we'll start wearing holes in our pants. That's what I feel like we're dealing with here. And when you have teachers coming up to support high school students that are almost adults, making excuses that they can't do it without having holes in their pants, it kind of encourages the protest stance. Now we're on to shorts. That's how I feel about it. This is a no-brainer in my opinion, wearing clothes without holes in them. If there are kids that can't afford clothes without holes in them, we have resources for that. So I'm not sure what we're trying to teach our kids by making excuses for them that we can't have them wear clothes without holes or wear shorts that are appropriate. There are so many different issues in our schools with teachers and students. And we have girls that are 16, 17, 18 of no fault of their own, beautiful young women, but they don't look 16 anymore. They look older, and they act older. And I feel like we're encouraging this by making excuses for whether or not, and I'm not saying you're making excuses, I'm just saying the whole subject matter altogether. And as somebody else had said it, you're right, we have much bigger problems than dress code. And I agree, maybe we should just go to uniform because it seems to be, you can't make both sides happy. The shorts happened because teachers were complaining to the board. This is why we went to the shorts rule. Well, that and a few instances where people were standing in front of our mayor and elected officials dressed inappropriately bending over, which was not a pretty sight. But it was mainly teachers that complained about it. And students. So it wasn't just us coming up with, let's impose these rules. But if you put a fingertip length in for the shorts, and then you got people coming with giant holes that show more than the short shorts were showing, we have another problem that we didn't create. And that's all I want to say about it, you know.
I'd like to say mechanically, when you say, let this go for a year, whatever, what better time is there to make this decision than right now going into the summer months where the parents and the kids have time to prepare for fall school? I mean, it's the perfect time for them to get their heads straight, find the clothes they need, and be prepared to start school in the fall.
I don't see this as being, I think we've got a problem with the holy jeans, but I don't see this as being every girl at the school out of it. I was up there yesterday because somebody wanted to get a check for the Booster Club. They didn't know how to do it, so I went and did it. And I got out of my truck, and it was 2:30, school had just let out, so I probably should have my head examined for trying to salmon upstream against all of that. But I got out of the car, and here came two girls, not a whole one in anything that they had. They were dressed very appropriately. It was a free dress day. Everything looked great. And here comes this other girl, and she's got the jeans on that have rips all over the place and stuff hanging out. It's not an impossible task when you start looking at things like that. It just can't be an impossible task. If some girls can find these things and other girls can't, why aren't these other girls finding them? It kind of stymies me. So I don't know. I just think that we need to up our game one notch, not upping it, dramatically. This is not a dramatic change. This is an incremental past the shorts. And we need to look at it as how do we have professional level dress for our professional students.
Can I get clarification then? So, what I'm hearing...
For our records, I know who
Carol
you are.
Balakowski.
Thank you.
Long-time resident, 6th grade Oregon. To get clarification. So you are asking for no holes completely because of professional dress?
Yes.
Okay. So as I said, long-time resident. I opened up Walmart here when it first began. Walmart had a very extensive dress code. It came to Lake Havasu City. And the Lake Havasu City residents said, the employees have said, yeah, that's not us. That's not us. Mm-hmm. And so for Lake Havasu, 1364, the dress code changed because we saw lawyers not professionally dressed in a tie. We saw our councilmen not professionally dressed. And not that I want to point out our board members, but I'm not quite sure what we're asking when we're talking about professional dress. So, that is my question when we're saying professional dress. So, because I do make a choice on what I wear. And I did have children, and I did make their choices. But, so I'm asking you, what are you expecting when you're saying professional dress?
We're talking about a change in the basic level of dress at the school. You say that I'm not professionally dressed.
I'm asking you your
definition. And I've worn a suit and a tie in this room.
I know you have.
Okay.
So then that's what surprised me when we're having this discussion today.
I think that we have to have a level that a student rises to in their dress to support their position as a student.
Doesn't context matter? I mean, professional dress in an education is clothes with no holes in them.
Right.
And shorts that are below fingertip length.
Right. And at the elementary level, because I just pulled up all 3 handbooks, at the elementary level, it does say specifically fingertips and no holes above the knees. And so when you say you're adding one more step, I would think, because that's not in the handbook at the middle school and at the high school, could that be the one more step? And then you go to the next step the following year. Because that isn't in the middle school. It's fingertip length.
We'll be right back here having the same fight. I mean, honestly, when I put this up online, on the Facebook, immediately, we need to get rid of the fingertip rule. It was an immediate bang. I don't want the fingertip rule. You guys should get rid of the fingertip rule. And these were parents doing this.
I don't think you heard any employees, though. Or did you? Fingertip length.
We'll not go there.
Okay.
And so, do we fight this every year moving forward, or do we just go to, this is what we expect on the bottom half of a boy or a girl, either way. You know, we talk about the low riding pants and the shorts hanging out. This covers that. This covers holes in boys' knees. This covers the whole gamut, left, right, up, and down. And this is the expectation now. And that stops us from having to come back and relitigate this yet again and go back through the fingertip rule on Facebook and having yet another long, drawn-out conversation. I mean, we're almost an hour in on holes in pants. I bet you we've spent more time in holes in pants than people spent when all the textbooks were lined up in here the other day looking at textbooks.
Not me.
I know you. You're good on that. But you know, you say we have better things to do, but this turns out to be the long, drug out, thou shalt not step on our right to wear the pants that we choose fight. And I don't know. I think we do have better things to do, but we've got to get this part right to get to that.
So the fingertip rule is already across the board, K through 12.
Yes.
Right.
So we're just asking for no holes.
It's no holes. Elementary already follows no holes above knee.
Okay.
So, and I think even John said last work session that he struggles with that himself at home with his youngers. Like
if this passes, it directly affects me.
Right. And so now we're saying absolutely no holes in the entire.
Mr. President, you might want to let Kathy know she should mute her side because we can hear all of her
Kathy?
background.
Yes.
We can hear you. Can you hit the mute button if you're not going to be interacting, please?
You can hear me do what? I'm not making any noise.
We heard the sigh, Kathy, and the dogs.
A sigh? Well, I need to tell you what my vote is. The dog got out, and I've got to get off the phone, and I've got to get in the car and go find it. So my vote is yes, if you can accept it. I don't know, but okay.
We'll figure it out.
Thank you.
And she's out.
That's it.
Is there any further discussion on 6-4? Any further discussion?
Hello, President and Board. My name is Lisa Romant. I'm a parent. I'll lay all my cards on the table. I am opposed to the finger length rule in general. And my question to the board members is, do you believe that legs are private parts? Or do you have a response to that question?
I don't know what you mean by private parts.
Well, we use the word private part to describe genitals. Are legs considered private parts?
Is the midriff?
We've already addressed that because of the standardized shirts.
But is the midriff?
I would say it's not, but I realize that there is opinion.
Based on that?
We already have that part of it addressed through the standardized shirts.
Yeah, I don't think legs are private parts, but I think that I don't want to see somebody's cheeks.
I agree, and butt cheeks, I would define as private parts, and I think most people in our audience would. So if the upper butt is showing, or the lower butt, depending on the case, why not regulate that but leave the legs out of it.
Because that requires our male teachers, in a lot of cases, to be judging the butt cheeks of our female students. And
No.
that's inappropriate, yes. It can't just be females enforcing it. That's why we went through what we did when we did, so that it was enforceable across the spectrum. There was no gray area. Just put your hands next to your side. There is no, you know, you get into a lot of gray area, especially when you're dealing with older girls. And it was very uncomfortable for a lot of teachers to think about judging on that basis.
Well, and then the board is judging. But the board has decided an arbitrary definition of what's appropriate.
It was not
So-
arbitrary.
So here's the thing. The first thing is we've already fought that battle. And we looked at a lot of different ways that we could enforce a standard. One of the things that came up was inseam.
I'm sorry, it was what? Inseam?
Inseam.
Okay.
So you need a 3-inch inseam or a 4-inch inseam, some arbitrary amount of inseam. How do you enforce that when you have a male administrator doing the enforcing?
It is kind of a judgment call, isn't it?
But why would you have a judgment call? Because the next thing that's going to happen is the parent's going to walk into the administrator's office and they're going to go, I think my daughter's shorts are appropriate. Prove me wrong. You can't punish my daughter until you prove me wrong. My daughter's going back to class. You're wasting all of our time by having me in here. The big reason behind fingertips, it's quick, it's easy to see, the enforcement happens in a much shorter period of time, and we can have, you know, a pair of replacement shorts even on campus, so we don't even have to call a parent, send a kid home, have a pair of shorts brought in. It's a very relative, quick and easy thing on the enforcement side of it. And I get this countless times on Facebook, you know, how do you enforce this? You know, why not this? Why not that? And it really comes down to what is the least invasive method to determine an appropriate length for shorts. And that's really what it comes down to.
I hear a lot of defense on the fingertip rule, and I think we would have to disagree on that one. However, that does not address the additional requirements that you're making about the holes below the fingertips. If I'm standing here and my clothing goes down below my fingertips and the holes start after my fingertips end, then why am I showing something that's appropriate if legs are not private parts?
What we are saying is why can't you have a complete pair of pants?
Why would it be the board to ask that, or up to the board to ask that question of parents and students?
We're actually the ones that approve the handbook and in this case the dress code.
Okay, but you're making an arbitrary judgment again about what is appropriate and what is not.
That's the job.
It's not
the job of a board member is to represent the community. And while you are a part of the community, I believe the community as a whole does not necessarily reflect what you're saying. Especially when I've been out there, I've put this out, I've made it a very public discussion and a very public thought process, and literally put out what we're talking about tonight, this statement that we're talking about changing its complete form, and had it open for public comment. And what I will tell you is that people have said they would rather have uniform or complete pants in our community. The board is not here to represent the youth and the teachers. We're here to represent the community on these things.
Of course.
And so as a representative of the community, I solicited community input. I actually did the job to find out what our community thinks and what our community wants. And what did I get back? And not just looking at the Facebook post, putting it out into Orchids and Onions to get information there, looking at the newspaper article online and seeing what the reactions were there, looking at what the newspaper did in its Facebook post, talking to the public. And what I found was, by majority, the community supports this statement.
It sounds like you said otherwise earlier when you were talking about the reaction on Facebook. I will leave that as it is because I'm not on Facebook myself and I did not see your post or any of the reactions. I would also, and I'll say this just in closing, it seems like from the voices that you've heard today, your opinion might not reflect truly the voice of the community. And if you walk around in the community, it seems like most community members do not adhere to your standards of professionalism.
Can I explain to you that this is not my standard of professionalism? And may I also ask, how many people here work for Lake Havasu Unified School District? Please raise your hand. How many people are community members at large? Not large, not working for the district. And how many people are students? I think this is more representative of the district and its students than it is the community, based on what I just saw. Would you agree?
Can you repeat the question?
Do you believe that what you just saw in this room is more representative of district employees and students than it is community as a whole?
Yes, I do.
I know I'm making this more drawn out than it has to be, but I'll make it quick.
Sure.
I feel like a lot of faculty do not mind the holes in jeans as long as they aren't ridiculously excessive, like, you know, pants literally split down the middle. I think we can all, or a lot of faculty and students agree that fingertip rule is in place and there's nothing we can do to really change that. But I feel the way you solicited community response the community didn't have the full input. So what I mean by that is a lot of students probably don't follow you on Facebook and they weren't able to see it. Like, I just found about this today and that's why I'm here. Also, the Orchids and Onions thing that seems to cater more to older people than my generation. So my suggestion is to try and elicit better community response to just really get a sense of what the community is feeling.
So when I took a direct message from a student who got upset with me and hit me up 3 times during my workday wanting to know where the picture of the pants came from because they thought they were cute and they could buy them, that means that wasn't a student interaction?
I feel that there is some student interaction, but
I can show you the interaction that I've gotten from students. I've gotten a lot of interaction from students,
right.
most of which has been that I'm some old fuddy-duddy middle-aged guy who has a problem. And I appreciate that they're open and honest with me, but I have gotten interaction from students.
Right. So
have my sons who attend the high school. They've gotten interaction from their classmates over this and how horrible their dad is. So I get it. I understand it. I've gotten interaction from students. I understand what the student's perspective is.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
I think we're beating a dead horse here, but I will say this. If anybody here wants to go over to the high school and stand there and watch the kids come out, 95% of them will be dressed exactly the way we're talking. Complaints are coming from the 4 or 5%. And that 4 or 5% are going to complain no matter what you change. I've been in 4 different school districts, and every time you have to make a change in anything, the same people are going to complain.
any further discussion on 6.4? Hearing none, carried. Call for the vote.
Alan Ward,
Yes.
do I take Kathy Cox's yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Nicole Cohen,
Yes.
Pat Rooney,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes. Item 6.5, approval of the 2017-18 revised budget. Mr. Murray.
Mr. President, members of the board, it is recommended that the governing board approve the 2017-18 revised budget. The revised budget includes adjustments based upon changes that have occurred since the adoption of the budget last July. The district does not expect an over-expenditure in any of the fund areas of regular ed, special education, and pupil transportation. I have a presentation for you, but I don't know if you want me to go through that first, since it'll give you a lot of the detail.
Let's go ahead and put it on the floor. I'll entertain a motion on 6.5.
I make a motion, we approve 6.5 as presented.
Murray, it's all yours.
Right. So you'll see it as the fiscal year 2018 May budget revision. By statute, the Arizona Revised Statute Title 15 requires districts to revise their budgets before May 15th. The actual revision is then uploaded to the Arizona Department of Education once the governing board does approve it. You can see that on the PowerPoint here, these are some of the reports used to access the information that is collected by the Arizona Department of Ed when we have our data uploads through particularly Synergy, which is our student management system. So these are those are some worksheets that I pulled from. Now these, you'll recall a while back, and I tried to make this as big as I could. I actually had to merge a couple PowerPoints together so I could get some portrait views here. But I did hand this out last week at our budget work session. And I created this spreadsheet to kind of simplify things a little bit, just for the purpose of laying out information into a simple 8.5 by 11. But as I start at the top, everything within our budget centers on average daily membership or student enrollment and how many days they've been within our district, attending in our district. So this first worksheet that you see is the adopted calculations that came to you in late June during that proposed budget, and then 10 days in early July it came before you again for the actual adoption hearing. So the projections at the time, because we are on current year funding now, this is the first year of current year funding, so that requires districts to now project their student enrollment going into that school year, that fiscal year that you're budgeting for. So our projections at the time, and having current year funding new to every district in the state, or pretty much every district in the state, we projected, you'll see there, 21 preschool students, 3,450 K-8 students, and 1,655 9 through 12 students. And then as I input those into the yellow cells, that number is then calculated by the multiplier next to it, and that gives you your weighted student count in that far right corner, or far right column. And that's for your students, your Group A students, all of your students within the district. As you move down towards the center of the sheet, and you'll see Group B. Group B students are typically your students who require special services. So you have the different categories. You see hearing impairment, so on and so forth, all the way down that center portion of the worksheet. Again, projecting, because we went into current year funding, the district, we projected the following numbers there in the yellow highlighted area. Each of those special categories have a unique multiplier that add weight to students, because it does cost more to educate those students and provide services for those students. And then you see again in that far right column, in that Group B section, that will also give you another weighted student count number for Group B students. So when you add Group A and Group B, you have 6,743.352 students that was calculated for that projection back in July. Now that number then is carried down from in that remainder of the worksheet, and it filters in, or calculates and populates in the yellow section from the half point of that sheet down, and that's what then produces your real dollars that will then ultimately go before the taxpayers in the form of a tax levy. So that first yellow box, starting at the midpoint of the sheet, that's the base level amount which is the base support, the base level amount for this year. Ms. Nowakowski referred to it earlier. It's $3,729.31 per pupil, and then that is multiplied by your weighted student count, which gives us 25,148,051. So as you go down, I won't spend too much more time on this sheet because this was the adopted that you saw in July. You have your teacher experience index, which tells us where we stand as far as the average employment or average years of experience, I should say, with our teachers compared to the state average. So we were slightly higher there. You'll see that we ultimately calculate down with a projected budget balance carry forward of $1,242,000, some Prop 123 money, and then our override dollars there at the bottom of $3.9 million gives us a general budget limit of $31.8 million. That was in the adopted budget. So turning the page and going to the next sheet, this is the revised calculations based on some finalization of some numbers. The challenge at times is the ADM figures aren't fully finalized until after the actual budget adoption. It could be as late as September that you get these final ADM figures from the year before. So your budget is already adopted and approved before the final ADM numbers are even posted. So again, you have to kind of use your best estimates at that point. So now that all of the calculations have been determined, we went through the encumbrance period. All of our expenditures were posted to the correct fiscal year. That then allows us to have an actual calculated budget balance carry forward that we then add to this revision. So again, starting at the top in Group A, our actual numbers that we received according to the Arizona Department of Education that were confirmed through them. You see there at the top 27.9 preschool students, and then on the next page here in just a minute, I took both budgets, the adoption and the revision, and you can see them side by side. So you see the preschool numbers, the K-8 numbers, the 9 through 12 numbers, the actual Group B weighted, actual Group B students, average daily membership, still the same base level amount, which will change going into next fiscal year with the new budget that the legislature just adopted. Going down through there towards the bottom, you see the new budget balance carry forward after all expenditures were finalized last year. It is actually $1,650,580 versus the $1.2 million as was projected at the beginning of the fiscal year. Again, the override stays the same, and the updated budget limit, general budget limit of $32.6 million. So if you turn to the third page in front of you, this is where you have a side-by-side comparison of what the adopted budget looked like and then what the revised budget looks like. And then the far right column is the adjustment. So you can see the difference in average daily membership at the very top, your total weighted student count. We grew by, not growing, but our projection was off by 98 students, weighted students. There was actually only about 23 or 24 actual students. But when you factor in all the weighted student counts, we had in Group B, we had a pretty big increase from the projection to the actual revision. And that's just hard. Aggie's not here, but that's hard to calculate because students move in, they require special services, and as you can see, there's some heavy weights associated with some of those services, so that increases it very quickly. So overall, an adjustment of about 98.588 students. That calculates out to give us an additional $367,000 in our revised budget. The teacher experience index, it grew 1,728 because of the increase in our support level. We had a reduction in the 1.06 teacher salary from the adopted budget back in July because we had to forecast how many teachers were going to stay on board and be with us through this year. So we did have some last minute resignations. When I had to put this together towards the end of June, we still were hiring at that time and we were still having some turnover. So that adjusted only $9,800 downward. The carry forward, as I mentioned, went from 1.2 million projected, and we try to project conservatively. And the actual revised number after all expenditures did hit the general ledger. We do have a budget balance carry forward of $1.65 million, which gives us an increase of $408,000 there. Prop 123 money went down. We were reduced by $3,340. That's tied to our student numbers. M&O override stayed the same, like I mentioned, so we had an overall increase in our budget limit of $764,443. And then at the bottom, just so you can see how that balances out, the expenditure budget, each of those areas, there were some increases and some decreases. The main thing is making sure that we budget to full capacity. If we don't revise this budget accurately, then we don't get to account for those extra dollars that are ours, which means that next year when we go out again for a levy, it does affect our override money and it does affect what we bring in. So we are budgeted to capacity. You can see that as I showed you the money in and then the money now budgeted to make up for that increase. And for some reason I could not get this Excel spreadsheet to balance out correctly. I did the math, but it shows that we're off by $1, but it's actually to the penny. So I got to call Microsoft to find out what's wrong with that. So those are the worksheets I tried to, again, take, and you'll see here in just a second how complex the state worksheets are. Here's an example. So it's hard to, I'm trying to take a lot of this, and this is just one worksheet, this is just one. I'm trying to take some of this and break it down a little bit to make it a little easier to see and follow from top to bottom, left to right. But I want to explain this. This is district additional assistance. This is what Mrs. Nowakowski referred to earlier tonight. If you look, it all starts again with average daily membership. Everything starts with our students, and it's centered on that. Our funding is based on kids. So as you start and populate these fields, you get down to where I added some red and some highlight and some green and then some blue later on. That's just to kind of highlight those areas. So you can see, and let me get to my worksheet here because I was just telling Mrs. Asire I found out I need to get some glasses. Staring at a computer all day is not very good. So I did get a prescription. So just so you know, and maybe I can read that next time. So if you go down to the red, that box, it's about halfway down on the right. We qualify for, and this is section 7, line E. It says 9 through 12 district additional assistance. We qualify for $975,105.98. The line just below that, that's highlighted in yellow, and then that red arrow that points to the yellow highlight in that far right column, that very next line says state budget reductions adjustment. So we have $975,000 on this worksheet. The very next line, there's a minus sign next to it, and the reduction is $785,362.14, leaving us with $189,743.84 for 9 through 12 district additional assistance. That's the red circle or oval there. Going down just below that, this is line F. This is preschool and K-8 district additional assistance. We qualify for $1,572,346.90. The very next line is the state budget reduction adjustment. Again, a minus sign next to that of $1,445,780.29. So we receive $126,566.61. So going to the very bottom of that, I added, so you can kind of follow the math. You see our 9 through 12 funding that we should receive, $975,000, plus the $1.5 million in preschool through 8. We should qualify, we should receive $2.5 million in district additional assistance, which Ms. Nowakowski mentioned is capital funding. If you go to the next section down, that's where you actually see the reduction, the reducing of $787,000 there, the reduction in preschool through 8 of $1,445,000. So we're reduced, total reduction of $2.2 million roughly. So when you add the two that we actually qualify for, we receive as a district $316,311, and that'll be on the next slide. Again, I apologize. I tried to make it as big as I could to fit on a PowerPoint for you. The board members do have this in front of them. So if you look at, this is the expenditure page 7. There's eight of these worksheets. This is actually the most simple worksheet here, and it's pretty easy to fill out, but definitely the most easy to follow. You can see there in column A, that's our M&O operations. What I just reviewed with you on the homemade worksheets, the Excel spreadsheets earlier, this is where all of that basically comes from. I take that information, I do the complex state worksheets, and I get the same number. So our overall general budget limit is down there in the red circled oval. As mentioned on the sheet in front of you, $32,603,995. And then the blue rectangle down on the bottom right corner, that's the capital district additional assistance column. That's the revised of $316,000 that I mentioned before, $311. So these will eventually go to the state. The entire packets in its entirety, as I mentioned, will be uploaded to ADP. Go ahead and go to the next slide.
Oh my gosh.
No, that was to get you. That was to get you to the homemade sheet. That was the link that I needed. So the final sheet, if you look at that very bottom right corner, again, this is another worksheet for the expenditure side of the budget. The far right column down at the very bottom, that's your $32 million revised general budget limit. And all of that, in those columns, we have salaries, benefits, purchase services, supplies. All of those columns then calculate, they need to, in order to capture all of the dollars available to the district, to that bottom right corner of 32 million so that we can have that available to the district. And that's what I have for the revision based on the new numbers we received from the department.
Mr. Murray, we're in this next fiscal year going to do a textbook adoption. Is that money coming out of PAA money?
It should.
Is it?
Well, that would be, I would like to, because that's the purpose of it.
How did we budget that in the preliminary budget that we put together?
We were looking at other funds, such as the performance funds that we received for a couple of the elementary schools. We were looking at those other specialty accounts that are only given to you in certain programs. Some of the programs are no longer funded by the state, so we had excess reserves in there, and we were going to use that to fund part of the adoption.
And what are we adopting for textbooks? Is it something that we're going to spend, I think it's $300,000?
I'd have to pivot to somebody. I don't have the number in front of me yet.
We don't have
Yeah.
the numbers yet.
Okay.
We're still in the preliminary stages of looking at the textbooks.
Is the DAA money sufficient, do you think, to cover one textbook adoption?
With the new proposal from what, we have a webinar tomorrow, and we're still getting information with, as far as the details of the new budget. But with the increase now, or I should say that was 85% reduction that you were seeing on the district additional assistance. The new budget allows for those reductions to be restored, or the money to start being restored in the tune of about 25%. So we should receive around, without final calculations and looking at ADM, around $500,000 for district additional assistance.
So that
on top of roughly the $300,000 that we have been given.
So that may be enough to do a single textbook adoption?
It would cover.
I'm asking a loaded question because I've got a senator in the room.
And that adoption is just 912, one
We were looking
content
at
area.
a 912 adoption. We budgeted just under $200,000 for that adoption.
Okay.
That was, again, just for 912. And because the district additional assistance was somewhat committed, that small amount that we had in the budget for this year, we were looking at trying to use some of our rural school funding, sometime a bit of the instructional improvement funding, and some of the M&O carry forward to be able to do that.
Now, that was 9 through 12. Was that just 9 through 12 literature?
That's it.
I just wanted to specify there's other classes besides
Correct.
literature.
It's not math.
Right,
and all of it.
it's one set of textbooks.
Okay.
Any further discussion on 6.5? Carrie?
Alan Ward,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes.
Pat Rooney.
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes. Item 6.6, discussion and determination of the Arizona School Board Association top 5 priorities for the 2019 legislative session. Superintendent Seiler.
Actually, Mr. Madison, I think that's yours.
It is. The past couple of years, we have not submitted to the Arizona School Board Association what our priorities are going to be for the legislative session. And we can continue to just kind of say, okay, great, we're not going to do it. But I thought maybe we might want to put together a quick 5 bullet points that we could send off with a very basic rationale behind them to the Arizona School Board Association, whether they agree with us or not.
I make a motion that we submit priorities to the Arizona School Board Association.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay.
I have a list.
You have a list. Even better.
Number 1, I think that we should request that they lobby to redefine classroom spending as promised by the governor 2015. That would include instruction, instructional support, and student support.
Okay.
That's number 1. Number 2, I have, I'll just go through my list and then we can move on maybe.
Sure.
Number 2 is for them to lobby, because that's all they do, right? Is lobby. They don't update their policy appropriately. So if they could lobby to restore the ADE Tech funding for APOR and CHAR, which is appropriations and their charter systems, those are 20 years old. It's how we get paid. Microsoft stopped supporting them in 2010, and if it breaks, we're in trouble, 3 years. So they had their tech budget cut from 5.3 million, or they received 5.3 million in this legislative budget, but they were cut 2.4, which was for the system replacement. So that would be good. Number 3, it would be good if they would lobby to have the Auditor General's report include the charter schools. And I kind of have a slash because, and I haven't read through everything yet, but, and maybe you can, Ms. Borelli can, Senator Borelli can confirm this. Did they remove the requirement for charters to post their budgets? Okay, so I would like that restored in combination with having that Attorney General report, just like our district reports. And then number 4, I have, would like them to lobby and go back to the 2015. I've got the House bills here, but it was the public lands bills, 2 public lands bills. One was HB 2176, which maybe you should use that. Maybe we should use the numbers because then they can just research that. That was Thorpe's bill, and that was to turn our federal lands back to us by 2022. And then Barton's HB 2318, which would have allowed us to join the state compact with the American Lands Council.
So we want to send those forth?
Nobody else has one? I don't want to be, I can think one up real quick.
I think the lands part of this is important. I'm glad you hit on it. One of the big problems we have is our tax base.
I know.
42% of our land belongs to the federal government. Kind of hard to tax something that the government's got control over. And so releasing at least part of that back to the state, adding that to the tax base will allow us to potentially have a much larger pot to deal with when it comes to education funding. And that's very important. If you look at a place like Texas, Texas is what, Nicole, 3% of federal land ownership?
It's a majority. I mean, well, I don't know what the number is.
But Texas owns most of its own land privately. And so when you look at Texas as a state, Texas has the ability to have a larger tax base. The percentage of tax that each person pays because the base spreads goes down. And as that goes down, they're able to do more with less of a tax burden on the local taxpayer. So it's highly important to get some of that land back in circulation for us. And it goes back to the Enabling Act and several other things, but I think that's very important. I think when you start talking school funding, not including something like that in there, I think that's a part of the discussion that really gets missed. My thought process is there's a lot of things on a wish list. I'd like to see vouchers dealt with in an entirely different manner. I think paying somebody to send a child to a private school or to homeschool at a higher rate than our district gets reimbursed, I think there's a problem there. And that'll hopefully get solved by the voters, but it keeps coming back again with them trying to do an end run around the initiative right now. I think as well that I think that we have to look at the funding formula. We have to break that thing apart, take a look at all the waypoints in it. Do we have enough money in that funding formula in the waypoints to actually work with a modern school system? And there may be things that are wholly adequate, and there may be things that gosh, we did this 30 years ago, and this part of the funding formula just is not appropriate anymore. It needs to come up or be eliminated or changed or dialed in a different direction. So I'd really like to see us take that thing apart in the next legislative session and really get a handle on what's in there. So I've got some ideas too. I think you hit on several of the things.
Well, I have a long list of things that I would love, but the problem is they have a long list every year.
Right.
And I don't credit them at all for the changes that have taken place this year. They just, it happened to be on their legislative agenda from last year. But my problem is that I don't feel like they're really working on our behalf. And my biggest problem is they don't do the one fundamental thing that I feel like we pay for, which is to update our policy. And that's infuriating for me. So right. I don't care about all their conferences or anything like that. So again, I have a long list, but that's not for them. So the reason I came up with this one is because I think it does a couple things. I think the classroom spending definition, we're owed that, we're judged that. People get that Auditor General's report and they see classroom spending and they're like, you're not putting enough in the classroom. The heck we're not. We absolutely are. And they promised that they were going to redefine it 3 years ago. So I would like them to hold that end up. This ADE tech funding, I mean, I got lots of tech funding issues. They're not funding our AZ merit test. They're not funding all the requirements. We're not getting extra dollars for that. But that ADE funding, that will affect us. If something happens to that system, we're in big trouble because that's not something that they can fix. So how does that all work out? What do we do? And then the charter thing, I mean, don't even get me started on that, but it's fine. It's fine for the people who believe in that choice. I'm not gonna challenge them or impugn their integrity or their character on it. But if you want that choice, it should be apples to apples, and we should know exactly, because this is all public money, so that the parents can make an informed choice, and then the public plans, I think, speaks for itself. So, and I left one open in case somebody else has a suggestion.
I think I'm talking the funding formula should be number 5. That's my personal thought.
Do you fully understand it yet? Because I don't. Like, I have most of the pieces, but I don't fully understand it yet. And I don't think that, I'm not prepared to use that if I don't fully understand how to hold them accountable if that's something they took on.
I think as they unpack it, if they actually unpack it correctly, I think that the accountability will become apparent within the discussion. But it's one of those things where you've got to pay attention, you've got to see what they're doing.
I think the two of you both have got good points. The question is, they want this by May 11th.
Right.
So we're going to have to formulate this thing.
Well, I think...
And I have a no-no.
Okay.
I'm sitting here looking at what they're saying their political agenda is, and down here they say, increase the compulsory attendance age from 16 to 18 years.
I have a note on that.
The only reason for that would be to keep more students in the system.
That's
That'd be
right.
the only reason for it. At 16, if they're not performing in school and don't want to be in school, all you're doing is asking our teachers to put up with a disturbance in the classroom.
I agree.
At that point, if they're not going to conform, they shouldn't be in the school. And when we're saying make it compulsory to age 18, you're talking about keeping them around for 2 more years, disrupt the school, and to me it's inane. I don't understand why they would do such a thing.
Well, this is their 2018 agenda. This is what they were pushing this year. And as much as I believe it's a protest vote to send anything down, I think that we should send our protest vote this year because we really haven't been sending anything. And sometimes you got to throw the piece of paper in the windstorm and see if it's going to make it through or not.
Well, I would be all for removing that as an agenda item, because I had a note on that compulsory education too. That's ridiculous.
So what's our pleasure? I think we take Nicole's list.
I'd like to make a motion.
Well, we already have a motion on the floor. All we have to do is fill it out and say this is what we're sending.
We can send it on. We don't have to follow the rule. We can send more than 7.
You're such a rebel.
We can send 8.
They had additional items on there. If I may, and I realize this is the board's discussion, but one of the areas that they had listed that has been an issue for us has been the current year funding. You know, we have to project, we have to revise, you can't, if you guess too high, if you guess too low, there are issues with that. It puts a huge burden on our business office to be constantly dealing with that, where if they went to the formula where you get the prior year, you can at least count on that budget for it, and then adjust for the following year. So that's an area that would be of interest for us.
Could I mention something just for everybody to keep in mind? We talk about federal lands, and we talk about the fact that we don't have private property available. But we also have to be extremely careful. We have a community college, we have a university, a couple of universities. And as they expand in their property, they'll be non-taxable. And we could actually educate ourselves out of money. I'm just bringing that up for future reference. I was in Huntsville, Texas. We had a prison. We had 2 universities. And our high schools were hurt because almost every piece of land in that town is non-taxable.
So am I I just want to clarify on the current year funding. Have you heard, both of you, because you both, or all of you, all the directors too, is everybody having a problem making this projection?
It's only districts that are declining.
Okay. So the districts that aren't declining still don't recognize that this could be a problem for them in the future?
No, and when I surveyed the superintendents last year, basically the superintendents reported that for those that were pretty stable, it didn't help them and it didn't hurt them. For those that were growing really, really rapidly, which were often really small districts, it was of help. But for the majority that were declining, it was not helpful at all.
Even if you're increasing in enrollment though, if you have a pretty up and coming area and you have a greater influx of students than you were actually projecting, and then you have to hire more teachers to be able to address that. If your tax levy has already gone out, then that's a big part of it, because you may need to hire additional teachers, but then your tax levy, the base is not supporting the increase in wages because of having to hire more staff. So there's a challenge. It goes both ways.
They just haven't experienced it yet, but I thought about that, just because they have increasing attendance or enrollment doesn't mean that they're not going to increase in ways that they weren't prepared for. And then what do you do once you've already, contracts have gone out and there's nobody available to hire? Right. So.
But you are right, though. If you're declining, it has a little bit more of an impact.
I say we throw it all in.
And let's do that.
Okay.
Let's go with the kitchen sink. So,
can we put in there that we'd like a written response back?
You smoke it over there.
An acknowledgement.
Return receiver. Right, there you go. All right, so I think we've got our priorities identified, and we'll call the vote so that we are going to send the letter. Send the paper.
May I make a clarification on who will be doing the notifying by or before May 11th?
You want to do it?
That's why I want to like.
Round the room we go.
Do you normally communicate with them? You're the one?
I have this email. I can do, if you will give me a copy of that, please.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
The 4 plus the 16 plus the vouchers. You were talking about that?
I think the formula is more addressing the formula.
Addressing the formula and then current year funding. Mrs. Lynne, did you get all this?
She's crossing her fingers over there. It's okay, I got it. Try this. Okay, let's call it.
Nicole Coleman?
Yes.
Ellen Ward?
Yes.
Pat Rooney?
Yes.
John Masson?
Yes. Item 6.7, approval of sole source with Rachel's Challenge and Rachel's Challenge agreements. Superintendent Side.
Thank you. President Maston, members of the board, it is recommended that the governing board approve Rachel's Challenge as sole source and to approve the attached agreements for services with Rachel's Challenge for a total cost not to exceed $59,000. Services will occur during the 18-19 school year. Thank you. This past fall, our community was shaken by the tragic suicide of one of our high school students. While none of us want to face it, the statistics around suicide are hard to ignore. In Arizona, suicide is the first leading cause of death for ages 10 to 14 and the second leading cause of death for ages 15 to 34. As a school district, we have been discussing how we can better serve our youth through both prevention and intervention. Having safe schools, creating an engaging classroom environment focused on meaningful learning, and ensuring we have adults on campus who care and who can make connections with our students are priorities. We have also noted that when a need arises, the community steps up to help. A group of community members from Citizens for Havasu Schools formed a subcommittee focusing on teen suicide and bullying. In their research for community solutions that focus on prevention, the team identified a program entitled Rachel's Challenge. After several conversations with the founders of Rachel's Challenge, the committee has proposed a community-wide event to include training of all staff, assemblies at all schools for all students, and a week-long event working with all 10th grade students. More detailed information will be provided in the PowerPoint at your convenience. The initial cost will be paid by the district, with a significant portion to be reimbursed through fundraising by the committee. And this contract has been reviewed by legal. Can we go through the PowerPoint?
No, let's put a motion on the floor. I'll entertain a motion on 6.7.
I make a motion to approve 6.7.
Seconded.
Okay.
Thank you. One of the areas that initially prompted this was the unfortunate suicide that occurred this past fall. However, the reinforcement for this and the need for some beginning to look at prevention in terms of our school climate and our community climate occurred also after the shooting in Parkland. And so some of the things that we've discovered through all of our school safety work has been that we do a lot on how do we intervene, how do we prepare for a physical assault on our campuses, but how are we proactive in addressing the kinds of things that not only are being seen for students who are committing suicide, but also for students who are committing violence. So there's often similar characteristics, and bullying and depression are areas that are a focus in both of those. And so in the research in how do you actually provide a school climate that helps to prevent those things, there's several key points, but the main ones are fostering a culture of respect, creating connections between adults and students, and breaking that code of silence, helping when you have those connections to understand that you need to talk about the concerns that are out there, whether you have concern about a possible suicide or a possible violent act, the idea that it's not tattling, it's reporting. So when we look at Rachel's Challenge, I want to give you just a little bit of background on Rachel's Challenge. Rachel Scott, and I got this, I realize it's not always a source that we accept from our students, but this is right off of Wikipedia, and it is actually accurate. I double-checked that part of it. I found it interesting when I looked it up because it describes her as an author, but Rachel was the first victim in Columbine of the massacre. There were 11 students that were also murdered before those perpetrators committed suicide, and she was 17 years old and she was killed at Columbine. The interesting part about all of this is we talk about the fact that when students are bullied, when they are not feeling that they're going to be safe at school, they don't come to school, they don't participate in school. This particular group started because of Rachel's work in her school that wasn't even discovered until after she was dead. And so one of the things that happened is that after Rachel's death, her family discovered that she had journals. She had journals that she had been writing in for a very long time, and really had some very profound writing. I'm not close enough to read that from here. I was reading it before, but one of the things that she talks about in this particular is she talks about these feelings that things were going to happen to her, and so she had to live a life of meaning and a life of purpose so that she could have an impact during her life, whatever that might be. And so the journals are what started this, and then the idea that when she actually at her funeral, the students kept coming up, and they had the opportunity to talk about Rachel, and they kept talking about how much she had changed their lives. And her parents had no idea she was targeting these students, and she had a whole system. She was looking for students with special needs because they were overlooked. She wrote in her journal, I want to reach out to those who are new in our school because they don't have any friends yet. And I want to reach out to those who are picked on or put down by others. And so she actually had written about this, and she had a plan to target those students. One of the things that she wrote was, compassion is the greatest form of love humans have to offer. She also really had a deep sense as a young lady of peer pressure. And she talked with students about being true to themselves, being true to their identity. Don't let your character change color with your environment. Find out who you are and let it stay its true color. And so she had that mission throughout her life. One of the things her parents discovered also is when they moved her dresser out, that she had taken on the back of her dresser, and this is a picture of the back of her dresser. You can see that, that pressed wood back. And she had traced her hands on the back of her dresser and had written in the hands, these hands belong to Rachel Joy Scott and will someday touch millions of people's hearts. And so based on what Rachel did as an individual, what her family did was start this foundation to ensure that her message got out so that students throughout the world could become like Rachel and actually start to say, I can have an impact, I can make a change individually on a day-to-day basis by my actions. And so the foundation has developed over time. They started out with just assemblies and then have evolved into having a much greater and sustainable work. And so they have a program that's called Awaken the Learner. And this is not a one-shot. It's an actual process that students go through. There's curriculum or opportunities to reinforce the concepts throughout the school year. And this is the program that the committee was reviewing. So they provide an elementary presentation. This one is, again, age appropriate for elementary schools. We're looking at that for our students K through 6. It would be differentiated K through 4 and 5, 6. And the topics are there in terms of the big themes, is that idea of using kind words, doing kind things, accepting and including, choosing to be positive, setting goals, and then continuing that chain reaction that they talked about. The middle school presentation really is the story of Rachel and basically what she did with her journals and so forth. The high school presentation is the challenge presentation, and this one is challenge influences, to speak with kindness, and to start that chain reaction with each other. And they were working with Robert Marzano to develop their program. There has been some research done on this, and one of the things that was done is an independent research organization. That an independent research did find that it provides a sustainable, evidence-based, evidence-driven improvement process that meets the SAMHSA requirements. The partner schools
And we lost a child last year, and we lost actually 3, I think, in the last 2 years, and I think there were more than that. The suicide, and there was the bullying and all of that, like Mrs. Hart said, and we knew we had to do something, and we didn't know what that was. And God put this one in our lap, and it was the right thing. It was had all the answers, and if you have a chance to go online and look at this program, you'll see that the love that this family put out. There's been over 28 million children that have been touched by this program. And I think one of the things that I remembered so profoundly from last week's work session was there was actually a teacher sitting, and I couldn't see their face, but there was a teacher sitting in the audience during her work session last week that said that she was a child right after Columbine, and she had gone through Rachel's Challenge, and because of that program, she became a teacher. So it does touch lives. So I just encourage the board to vote to fund this program, and this is it's not just a school program or district-wide program, it's a community program, it's a family program, it needs all of us. I'm certainly committed to it. I know my daughter, everybody that I've talked to, I hope that all of you will be, for all of those people that have lost someone. That's all I have to say.
So, do we have discussion among the board?
Yes, we do. I don't want this to be misunderstood because I seconded this motion. And I think Rachel's challenge has a good point. But I teach management and supervision. And one thing I teach is that the worst possible way to manage is program management. A program is always good. Every program that's ever been started has been good. They're good because they're addressing a problem that's been identified. Nothing in that says they resolve the problem that's been identified. Now, we're talking about the 10th grade. By the 10th grade, bullying is germinated. The seeds were planted back in 3rd grade, 2nd grade, 4th grade. And anybody who runs a garden knows that a pre-emergent herbicide is the best thing you can have. Don't let it get to the 10th grade. Don't let it germinate. Having said that, I think the program has validity. But the problem is, there's a tendency with programs to let it stop our day-to-day communications, our day-to-day interactions, our day-to-day addressing of the problem. And the thing is that process is the answer. Yes, process is the answer. The individual teacher in the individual classroom has to address these things. And if we have a program, and the program's done, and the teachers say, oh boy, the kids have now learned all about bullying, we will have hurt ourselves worse than we would if we didn't have the program at all. I'm just mentioning that. I want everybody aware of it. Because it doesn't do any good to have a program and it turns into a splash in the pan.
I think several things on this. First and foremost, somebody said when we were talking about pants, of all things, that the world has changed and things are different, and they are, from this perspective. Everybody's got one of these in their pocket, and we all go around and we can interact with one another, and it goes out on Facebook and Messenger and Snapchat. Problem is when you get to bullying, you do it here, everybody knows. So when you get the kid who's out in the playground and somebody thinks it's going to be funny and they pants him, somebody's got their phone out and take a picture of that kid getting pants. It goes everywhere. It's not just a couple of people on the playground and ha-ha, funny, funny, and the kid's hurt for this long. These things go out onto Facebook and Messenger and Snapchat and all over God's green earth on the internet. And they come back at this kid at 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And we've seen this in our schools. We've seen issues at the high school where we're dealing with something at 10 o'clock at night because of social media. And we get the police involved and we're resolving issues at 2 in the morning. Because somebody's being pushed or pulled in the wrong direction. Mr. Ward is right. You got to catch these things early in the process. You've got to catch them at the lower grades. But this is part of the driving force behind some of these suicides and behind some of this bullying that's going on. And it's a lot different than when I was in school or when a lot of people in this room were in school. And what used to be maybe a little bit over the top fun for some people is now a much more serious thing. And it hurts people in a much different way. So I look at a program like this, and I look at it as a program. When I look at a program, I don't look at a program that we're going to do this fall as we start back up. I look at a program that we're going to do this fall and the following fall and the fall after that and the fall after that. Because if we don't make a commitment to doing something, and by something I don't mean to make light of it, if we don't make a commitment to doing something that is proactive with the children that are involved in these things, we're going to hurt the kids. But it's got to be the right thing, or we're going to hurt the kids. What I've seen of this, what I know of this, what I see statistically, this may just be the very right thing. But we're not going to know until we bring it in, we try it out, kick the tires a little bit, drive it around the block. And so I think we start. But I also think if we start and we like it, we commit to it, and we do it long term.
I think it's a good program, Jim. I'm not saying it's not. And like the superintendent said, over a 3-year period, you'll have affected your 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. I think that's wonderful. But I think as a district, we have to accept the fact that bullying begins at the grade school. It begins in the 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade. And that once a kid develops a bullying habit, you're going to have a much more difficult time stopping them in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And if we recognize that, and we accept this program as a culmination of our efforts, that's great. But if we look at this program like it is the program, then we get ourselves in trouble.
Well, and that's why we see some of these things in lower grades.
Hi. I know, I gotta go. State your name. Where are you from? Oh, I have to say my name. State your name. Hi, I'm Wendy Moore. I'm from Lake Havasu. I've been living here since 1989. I went to high school at the high school here, graduated in 92. Both of my kids are going to the high school here, or not going to the high school, but my son graduated in 2005. My daughter's planning on going to the high school as a freshman in the fall. I also am fostering a 14-year-old young lady that's a friend of my daughter's. And she has really touched my heart. And she has had a tough life with going through everything that's been in Rachel's challenge. And to address your point, this is going to be in all the schools, all the ages, in some way, shape, or form. So every age is going to be affected. The 10th graders seem to be the kids that actually retain the compassion and kindness and can foster it with the younger kids and the older kids and be able to approach it with more of maturity. So when you say it's only going to be the 10th, 11th, 12th grade, that's not really the case from what I'm seeing. So what's nice about it as well is if you've got kids in all different grades, the whole family is going to be talking about this. So the parents are going to be paying attention. So the parents are a huge part of this as well. Educating them, watching their kids, making sure that they aren't on their phones all the time, and understanding that, you know, you can put that phone down. You cannot respond. And learning those compassion skills and kindness is going to be probably one of the biggest factors that our kids can learn from this, is my humble opinion. So, and I completely agree that, you know, we have to get something going, and maybe, you know, this won't work. I don't know.
I understand what you're saying. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a good program. I worry that over time, not this year, oh boy, it's a brand new program, wow. But I worry 3 years from now that at our grade school levels, there'll be a tendency to say, oh, well, you go through Rachel's challenge when you get to 10th grade. And then what we're doing is we're cutting the bottom out from underneath the program. I'm just trying to warn people that this potential is there. The potential is there for this program to exist, and we're not fulfilling its needs at the lower levels. Does that make sense?
Well, not really, because they're actually getting approached with the curriculum in the grade schools. So it's something they'll be excited about, actually, I think, by the time they get to 10th grade. So, anyways, that's my input.
All right, one more thing. One of the important parts, I think, of this, and I think if you ever have a chance to go into the rachelschallenge.org, one of the nice parts about this program, and I think especially because of the 10th graders, once they start this, chain reaction, those students are especially a great catalyst for reaching into the elementary schools and becoming parts of the buddy system. And so it really is an integral part of the whole school system all the time. And I think that that's a really important part. So it's not only just, you know, 1 year that it's all throughout the whole school system, but it's every single year, every single grade level. The focus year after year after year is to train the 10th grade students to become, you know, that group of kids that does the mentoring. And the parents get involved as well, you know, with volunteering to be, you know, working in the hall monitoring. But the chain reaction part, and if you, again, I would encourage everybody to go on and especially look at that part, the chain reaction, because that's the part that gets the kids and the communities together and working with the younger students and mentoring to the younger students and, you know, being kind to each other. And so again, it's not just on the 10th grade part. I think that's the bigger focus on the week-long part in the beginning, but it is reaching back down into the elementary school level. So.
I have a question on the $59,000. Is that a one-time cost?
To do everything that's here, it's for this year. If we were going to do everything that was here again, it would cost the entire amount again for the following year.
And then, this is only for the initial thing, and if it's to be repeated, you have to pay.
Correct. Now, we may not do it exactly like this again once we had the initial year, but this was the cost for doing the assemblies and the staff training and the student training and all the materials.
Okay.
So we'll have the materials, we'll have other things.
Right. And then the second thing that's on the action item that says the initial cost will be paid by the district with a significant portion to be reimbursed through fundraising by the committee.
Correct.
Now, when you say a significant portion, have they committed to a certain amount or anything like that? In other words, I guess what I'm saying that it's a good idea but we're asking to pay $59,000 for the initial training, and then with the promise that whoever else is going to be involved is going to carry a significant portion of that cost.
May I?
Go ahead.
Okay. So originally, when we were talking about this, there were so many time frames that had to be met, okay? And the budget committee had already met, and it's not like we could go to the budget committee. So we were committed as a group to fundraise for this. But of course, we couldn't fundraise for it until it was approved by the board, because you can't go out and ask for money for something, and there was all kinds of other things that had to take place. And then there was some grant money that was found to take care of it up front. So there is no dollar amount that the committee has committed to, but the committee is committed to fundraising. So I don't know if that answers your question, but we're not taking these dollars, and correct me if I'm wrong, out of M&O.
Actually, there is a portion of it that will come out of M&O because we don't have enough in the grants to do that. We have had a commitment, have not received it yet, of $10,000 from our county because of the specialized program that it is, and so we've made that request, so we know we'll get that. And I know that Calvary is very interested and will contribute something. We don't have an amount. We have, kind of waiting to see. I have not talked with the charters yet because, again, hasn't been approved. Right. So I don't know whether they'll want to commit financially to do it or not, but we just feel like, I don't know, it may sound a little odd. This is a big community and it's a small community, and doing something community-wide really could have an impact. Yes. And so the idea of getting everybody involved and making it happen, I just feel like that's a service that we owe to our community.
And then the last thing is, and I think Grumpy has hit on this, is the sustainability of it. And that's what always concerns me, is that there's a lot of enthusiasm and you put in something and then it's not sustainable because you don't do the training, or you don't have the people that are committed to doing it, and then over a period of time it just disappears. All the well-intentions in the world don't make it successful. And so as a board member, that's what I would be concerned about. I think oftentimes on these type of things you can bring in people, you can get that real training, and if you have the right people that have that long-term interest and enthusiasm, then it is sustainable. And I think that's what really he's mentioned, he's concerned about, and that would be a concern of mine too.
If you're talking $59,000 every year.
It wouldn't be that much.
No, it's not a professional. I mean, because you're going to get to a point sooner or later with all the programs and things we try to incorporate into the school district, where you're going to say, we're going to cut some costs. Sooner or later, that question's going to come up. And if you cut the costs on this, then you've defeated the whole purpose.
Correct.
Plus the fact that, and this is a little rough around the edges, but I can already see all the resumes being written up saying participated and led in the execution of Rachel's. And at that point, the resume's got it on it, and you don't care whether it goes or not.
A couple of things. The concern with sustainability is legitimate. The Title IV funding, which is the drug, alcohol, and tobacco intervention, that was kind of the old Title IV, is a funding source that we can commit to this. It fits perfectly with that, and we have tentatively in our plan. It was just a matter, we have to revise it if it doesn't get approved, because we can use that funding. That was our grant funding to start with. The cost of bringing everybody out and doing a one-day assembly is probably where we're seeing a lot of the cost, but the idea this year was, let's do everything in one day. And so they're bringing multiple trainers, multiple travel, and so forth. Whereas if we had one trainer out and they could do it over a course of a week in different schools, it would be a little bit less. So there are some things that are this year are adding to that cost. But the other piece of it, as you mentioned, is that commitment. And I do think we need to see how it works and how it feels.
I think it's a peripheral problem too. I have teachers talk to me all the time about non-classroom commitments, non-educational commitments that are laid on their shoulders. And in here, we're all enthused about this right now, but how many of the teachers out there who are walking into that classroom every day of the week want one more thing put on their shoulder?
Well, there's already a requirement to a certain extent for character education. That kind of meets that, but I'm not sure how many people in this room have agonized over the series 13 Reasons Why, but that's about all the reason that I needed to support something like this, that and some of the tragedies that we've had. And it's true, our kids are experiencing things we never had. So
I know that our high school counselors were able to hear Rachel's father speak at the last counseling conference. And Tracy Presley, who you met earlier this evening, was actually worked at a school that had done the program and has been very committed to assisting with the implementation of it because of that experience. That's been, I think for me, one of the most interesting things. Sounds kind of like I'm looking at a bug, but the most is that the people who have been through it are truly impacted, and they remember it for years, and they talk about it for years. And so, although I have not personally been through the program, I know of the program. I know schools that have been through it who believe that it has made a huge difference. I think for us, it would be worth it. I would be really anxious having them do the keynote for the entire staff on the 1st. My prediction will be that people will be very enthused about it.
I think on the sustainability track, this came from outside of the district. This came from the community. This came from Citizens for Havasu Schools. This is not something that was initially thought of or developed internal to the district. So I think the community is pushing this forward, and I think that will continue for several years to come. With that in mind, though, I also look, and I'm a big fan of a guy named Bruce Arians. Up until this last year, or this coming year, coach of the Arizona Cardinals. And his philosophy with the team is basically no risk is no biscuit. And I think at some point, you've got to look at a situation, you've got to say, yeah, there's a couple of things here that may cause us some concern, but is it worth investing in? Is it worth doing that risk? And this is something I think is absolutely worth a risk. And when you look at this inside the scope of a greater budget for a school district, I'm not trying to make light of the fact that almost $60,000 is a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things for our district, it may not be so much.
our community. Bigger than the district, sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
See Sam in there?
No, that's all right. Catherine Hubert, I work at Oro Grande. I hate public speaking. I'm going to talk to Cole. My son was actually 1 year the vice president of the high school anti-bullying club. His junior year, senior year, he was the president. And I know that just that little club that didn't have a whole lot of members made a difference. I know that those kids went out and talked to other kids just to show them they cared, and I know they made a difference. Yes, 10th grade, they're older. I understand what you're saying. I'm also, I do peer mediation at Oro Grande with Tara Smith. And as soon as you started talking about this program, it really touched my heart. Because it goes into the elementary schools. It starts with our little kiddos who need to hear this. And these little kiddos have really big hearts. Our 6th graders, they really need to hear this. The bullying that I see in 6th grade, it's really sad. I dealt with it just today with a crying 6th grader who felt like her little heart was breaking. And I just want you to know, I know $60,000 is a lot of money. I get that. But like John said, how do we know whether it's going to work or not unless we give it a try? And I just want to tell you, I think this is a really, really important thing, and I think we need to do this for our community and for our students. I think they deserve it.
Do we have any further discussion on 6-7? Anytime you're ready, Chair.
Pat Rooney,
Yes.
Alan Ward,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes.
John Manston.
Yes. Item 6.8, approval of changes to extracurricular, co-curricular, and mission activities for tax credit funds. Mr. Murray.
Mr. President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve the addition of after-school tutoring to the list of eligible tax credit programs at Starline Elementary School. The after-school tutoring program offers educational reading intervention for at-risk students in grades kindergarten through 3. After-school tutoring will allow struggling readers more time, support, and instruction that focuses on a framework of foundational reading skills, which includes phonics, vocabulary, fluency and accuracy, and comprehension. Upon closure of the program, remaining funds will be transferred to Starline's All No Preference tax credit account. And Ms. Triossi is here, principal of Starline Elementary, if you have any questions.
I'll entertain a motion on 6.8.
I make a motion to accept 6.8 as written.
Second.
Discussion?
Can we have kids from, is it only from Starline for the Starline? Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Any other discussion? Terry?
Alan Ward,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes.
Pat Rooney,
Yes.
John Manston.
Yes. Item 6.9, approval of vouchers, student activity funds, and auxiliary funds. Mr. Murray.
Mr. President, members of the board, it's recommended that the governing board approve student activity funds for grades K through 12 and auxiliary funds for the month of March. You'll note there that the approval of vouchers for April and May will be presented in the June meeting for your approval. And that's because we had this meeting is early in the month, so we didn't have enough time to do a turnaround for vouchers for last month.
All right, do I have a motion on 6.9?
I make a motion to accept 6.9 as listed.
Second.
Discussion on 6.9. Hearing none. Terry?
Nicole Cohen,
Yes.
Alan Ward,
Yes.
Pat Rooney,
Yes.
John Manston.
Yes. Item 6.10, presentation review of policy ACA and ACAR sexual harassment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. It is recommended that the board suspend governing board policy BGB, policy adoption related to a first and second reading, and approve this presentation of revisions to governing board policy ACA and regulation ACA-R on sexual harassment. Approval of the revised policies from the Office of Civil Rights was received on April 25, 2018. The district has until June 24, 2018 to implement the remainder of the requirements of the voluntary resolution agreement. Prior to June 24, 2018, the governing board must adopt the approved policies, and the district must then provide notice of the approved policies to district staff, parents, and students. This notice must be accomplished by placing information regarding the harassment policies and procedures in school newsletters and the district's websites with links to the posted policies. Lastly, the district must identify and train pertinent staff on the policies. In order to meet the terms of this agreement, the policy must be approved prior to the June 19th board meeting, as school is out on May 24th. This policy has actually been developed and reviewed by our district's legal counsel. I would like to clarify for, again, a reminder for the board that we did receive a complaint. The complaint was not sustained, but in the investigation of the complaint, that OCR determined that our policy was not in compliance. As it turned out, the ASBA policy was not in compliance, and so our attorney revised it. It was approved by the Office of Civil Rights, and we are providing our policy to ASBA for revision as well.
So I will move to suspend governing board policy BGB on policy adoption related to the first and second reading and approve the first presentation of revised policies ACA and ACAR sexual harassment.
Seconded.
Do we have any discussion on it? Do we get free dues for a year if we do that?
Yes, thank you.
Send them policy revisions.
That would be nice.
There's no discussion, Terry?
Nicole Cullen?
Yes.
Pat Rooney?
Yes.
Alan Ward?
Yes.
John Masden?
Yes. Informational reports, Superintendent Sire.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I realize it's late, I apologize. I do need to mention that we have convened the High School English Language Arts Adoption Committee, and the books are required to be on display for 60 days that are being considered. They are on display, they have been since April 18th, and will be through July 12th to meet that compliance. I also was planning on giving an update on the budget. Mrs. Nowakowski did that for the most part. I do want to mention a couple of things in relation to the budget. We are going to reconvene our budget committee as a result of the fact that we have a revised budget for the 18-19 school year. The meeting dates will be May 15th, May 22nd, and then if needed, June 5th, so that we can bring a recommendation to the board in June. As was noted in Mr. Murray's presentation, we do have declining enrollment, and that is one of the areas that we have to continue to look at. So while we are going to get an increase in funding per ADM, we aren't going to have as many ADM as we had this year. The other requirements in this legislation is that we are required to post predominantly on our website and not on the budget page the current year average salary for our teachers, the prior year average salary for our teachers, the dollar increase and the percent increase that is shown from year to year, and we are required to report that annually to the governor's office, or not the governor's office, but ADE, thank you. The other thing I would like to mention, and I think it's important for our board to note, is that anything that we do in relation to staff raises will have an impact on our grants funding. Because if we, as you all know from our grants, it's Kathy calling in.
It's me. Maybe my wife.
As you are aware, our Title I grant had a 6% reduction. You got the grant this year, and then you got the grants update, Title II, 21%. And our IDEA, that's one of these validated, that is our special education grant that keeps declining. And so as salary goes up, it impacts those grants, and so we can fund less people in the program. So that is one of the areas that we have to consider. And then, of course, we don't have all of the information yet on how it calculates some of those things. Our assumption is that it may be similar to how it's calculated on the district attorney's reports, but we're hoping to have more information on that.
I apologize for that, folks. I apologize.
So we're hoping to have some more information tomorrow.
So would it impact the grants that you're referring to? When we did the compensation and we did it with the PE teachers and the music, and would that impact the grants, or is it just salary of
It's
what you
salaries
have?
that are paid out of the grants that pay people.
Okay.
And so when you have a fixed amount for a grant and the cost of people goes up, it leaves other funding that's not there.
Okay.
So anyway, that's our plan, and we're hoping to have more information and a great discussion with you next week.
Well, we have one last call to the public, and that would be Senator Borelli for the legislative update to follow. You were reading some tracks.
Probably the only senator that's hung at a 3-hour board meeting.
This is early for the legislature, so.
You thought you were out of these meetings.
Board members, thank you. Mr. President, thank you for this opportunity. A lot of things to discuss tonight, and there's a lot of few details on the budget that was not kind of highlighted. But before I get into all that, I wish to commend our superintendent, staff, and our teachers for keeping the schools open during this last couple weeks. Because, and also, by the way, being well represented at the legislature. I made a mistake of giving her my cell phone number, so we text all the time. But once again, I want to thank you. I want to commend you for your courage and professionalism to keep the schools open. And we were talking about bullying here and discussion, and I thought it was kind of ironic. How we were talking about people need to be professionals. And I just have to comment about this observation that I had. When Carol was at the Senate during that one day, I had acknowledged her up in the gallery. And I thanked her for being here. And I had to make the comment that I'm proud of our district because we didn't close. Well, normally what the teachers were doing, if you said something really good, they did this because they wouldn't clap. But when I spoke and I said that, and I commented and praised her for being here, still being at the Senate and being representing, I got this. And they turned their back. I thought that was very disrespectful, unprofessional, because these are your peers. And even though you were here 3 hours away, 220 miles, representing our district, I thought that really upset me. And it kind of angered me. And usually, pressure breeds resistance. So, had I voted with the AEA, or the Red for Ed people, that group, they were pushing all or nothing. All or nothing. There's 90 legislators at the legislature. 60 in the House, 30 in the Senate. Only 4 Democrats in the entire legislative body voted for the budget. On all that hassle, the AEA came out the day before the budget. They were in favor, and then they adopted the Red for Ed group, their agenda, and then they went opposed. So had we all voted with those two groups, it would be nothing. But I made the stance, and I said, not my district. All or nothing does not cut it. And I have to just kind of give you a perspective of what and of course Nicole knows I say this, that in Phoenix there's that education industrial complex out of Phoenix. And they really don't care what happens in rural Arizona. So what I'd like for you to add, if you could do this, to the school board association out there, because I don't think rural Arizona is really well represented. So if you could really put something on there. Of course, I like to take all Title 15 and put it in a shredder and start over, but I know that's not realistic. But the tax credit that we get here, somebody donates to the school $400. That goes to sports programs, correct?
It goes to a lot of things.
Does it go to curriculum?
Tutoring club.
Tutoring.
Just voted on.
Anything more, I need that added, because we need that help to fight, because technically they fight every kind of things that we try to do. Last year when we got through the ADM problem, and then they wanted to fine us $700,000, believe it or not, that should have been an easy fight. But I actually had to deal with certain individuals there, certain groups who fight these kind of things, because they're just trying to protect their turf, and their turf is all about Phoenix and Tucson. So just to kind of give you a perspective, and I had to highlight this because we hear the argument about per pupil spending all the time, and we're 48 out of 50 states per pupil spending. Well, when I'm traveling around at other organizations and we meet at other conferences, I realize that there's a 6-way tie for 48 out of 50 states, and then we start arguing. So, which says that it's just a bogus number. And one of those organizations that I've actually attended a couple of conferences at was ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council. And somebody here on this body made the comment, and I kind of really took offense to this, that the legislators that attend this conference sign a pledge to undermine public education, that we are somehow in the pocket of the Koch brothers. I've never met them, never got a dime from them, and I've never signed a pledge for anybody. So I really take exception to that, because I'm one of the guys that's kind of the maverick that kind of goes against his caucus all the time, because I'm not here to appease them and make friends. I'm here to get results for our district. So just to kind of give you a comparison, and I'm going to just say this, Phoenix Unified School District, they're a high school district. Their per pupil spending is $10,838,000 per pupil. Graduation rate is 83%. Tucson Unified. Now, by the way, that's a high school district. Tucson, 9130. Graduation rate, 85%. Wow, they're a little bit better. They spend less. And then I highlight our district. And I think you were there that day. Because our per pupil spending last year was 66.67. And our graduation rate is 90%. And I said this, I praise you, because that's because of all of you being dedicated teachers. Dedication is what everybody was, and so if anybody wants to give a pay raise to anybody, it's not Phoenix, it's not Tucson, because I'm not fighting for them. But I just wanted to highlight, every Republican voted for the budget for K-12, the K-12 budget. Every Republican stepped up to the plate, because we were not going to put up with all or nothing. There's a lot of things that we still need to fix, but we're trying to get ourselves out of a hole that started under Napolitano, inherited by Brewer, and then of course Ducey. So we're really trying. So you know, when we hear inflammatory comments about we're in somebody's pocket and we don't care, that really breaks and cuts, because the one person that was running for the Senate, running from the House to the Senate, okay, when I ran last time, I came out in favor of the bond and the override. Right, Hal? Now here I am running up against a guy who's a no on taxes, no on everything, but I went out because I said, you know what, I don't care about politics. This is the right thing to do. Our per pupil spending or our tax base in 2008, when property values were really high, and then when the economy tanked and our property values took a dive, we took a major hit. Everybody did. But even the override going up at 2% didn't even come close to 2008. I mean, so it made good sense with math. Hey, I just said I have a GED, but I could figure out that math. That it was still cheaper than going back. But anyway, I just want to say thank you. I want to praise you for your dedication, because our kids are doing a great job because of the dedication and professionalism of the staff and our teachers. So I just want to say we're continuing the fight. I'm not the kind of guy that rolls over easy and I go against the grain a lot, but I think that's why you kind of hired me. And the top understands the Marine mentality on this issue. But also I want to just kind of reiterate we retired the state facility board debt. That debt service was $64 million, and that went directly to the Classroom Site Fund when we extended 301 through the legislative process. So when that expires in 2021, we'll actually have a lot more latitude and leeways, so we can start moving some of those other top priorities on 301, because bottom line is the bottom bucket is on the 301 is the Classroom Site Fund. So we're going after some of those things to start. That's another $100 million to go in the Classroom Site Fund. So there's a strategy for long-term sustainability. So anyway, I want to thank you for your time. And anyway, I salute you. Thank you very much. And God bless. Thank you.
Anytime you would like to come talk to us, give us a little bit of a heads up, maybe a week's heads up, and we're happy to have you a little bit higher up in the agenda and not all over public.
Yeah, I forgot about the pink slips. So I only those pink slips. I thought we were going to get fired if I filled it out. But you know, we have the interim, and this is what I like. I like to have dialogue during the interim, so that way we can actually get something together and work on it. There's a lot of things in Title 15 that they need to go away. And it's just building a game plan and a battle plan and coming up with something to build a consensus, especially particularly in the legislature, because it's hard to get any kind of support. You almost got to twist arms to get anything done. So, but my door's always open. Nicole's got my cell phone number, and Carol's got mine. And so, anyway, thank you.
Carol's on speed dial.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. We've got a meeting coming up. In about, 6 weeks now? June 19th. We're going to have graduation in between then, a lot of end-of-year festivities. I know it's been a long and late meeting, but get out there and enjoy some of the end of the year. We've kind of earned this one. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
Any discussion about that? I skipped over the board reports again. That was like the third meeting you've done that.
Do you want to talk about?
No, I don't have anything to talk about. I just wanted to point it out. Okay, that's it.
Alan Ward,
Yes.
Pat Rooney,
Yes.
John Madden.
Yes.
Thank you.